There's a sound a house makes when it dies. Not the crash, not the boom. The silence after. The kind of silence that screams. We're about to hear that silence. But first, you need to understand something. This isn't a fight. This is a fracture. A crack in reality itself. The kitchen tiles vibrate. Nolan paces. 6'2" of Viltrumite muscle contained in a space too small for his guilt. His black hair, usually so neat, so controlled, stands disheveled. His fair skin is flushed. Those piercing blue eyes, they flicker between the woman he loves and the empire he serves. Debbie doesn't back down. She never has. Korean, fierce, her mid-back length black hair pulled tight in that bun. Her brown eyes unflinching even as her husband trembles with suppressed power. You can't have both, she says, voice steady. You can't be their hero and destroy their world. I don't have a choice. The words tear from Nolan's throat. Don't you understand? If I don't complete the mission, then don't complete it. She steps closer, into his space, into the danger zone. Choose us. Choose Earth. Choose your son. He's supposed to be Earth's greatest protector, the gold standard. But right now, he's just Nolan Grayson, a man torn in half by his own DNA. Debbie, he whispers, I love you. I know, she says. So stay. His hand moves, faster than thought, faster than regret. Viltrumite speed unleashed in a suburban kitchen. It connects once. That's all it takes. The sound is whipped and final, meat and bone. Debbie doesn't even gasp. She just stops. Mid-sentence. Her slim athletic frame crumples like paper. The bun unravels. Blood pools beneath her on the tile. Nolan stares at his hand, trembling, covered in red. What did I do? He breathes. The bedroom door creaks. Mark Grayson, 6 years old, fair skin, black hair with that distinctive widow's peak already showing. Rocket ship pajamas. He sees the body first. His brain rejects it. Then he sees Nolan, covered in blood, standing over his mother. Dad? Something breaks, deep in Mark's chest, a dam holding back an ocean of Viltrumite potential. The trauma doesn't just hurt him, it unlocks him. The scream starts small, then grows, then it shatters reality. Mark's feet leave the ground, his eyes go white, not just white, but incandescent, blazing, pure Viltrumite energy erupting 6 years too early. Trauma has no schedule, no rules, only power. The windows explode outward in a perfect sphere of concussive force. Glass becomes shrapnel. The walls crack, deep fissures racing from floor to ceiling like lightning frozen in concrete. Nolan throws up an arm. Mark! Too late. Mark spins, his arms flail, and the house tears itself apart from the inside out. Beams snap like twigs. The roof launches into the night sky. Furniture atomizes into dust. This isn't a tantrum. This is a supernova wrapped in a child's body. Emotional amplification in its purest form, pain translated into devastation. He comes down screaming. The foundation cracks. A crater forms, 10 feet deep, 20. Mark lands in the center, kneeling, surrounded by a mushroom cloud of plaster and broken wood. Silence. Nolan pushes through the rubble. His son sits in the crater, catatonic, dust in his black hair, tears cutting tracks through the debris on his fair cheeks. He doesn't blink, doesn't breathe. He's gone somewhere trauma can't follow, somewhere deep. Nolan reaches out, stops. What words exist for this? What apology fixes a dead mother and a broken child? He looks at Debbie, buried under drywall and beams, dead by his hand. He looks at Mark, shattered by his violence. He runs, not through the door, through the ceiling, through the sky. He punches through the atmosphere so hard he leaves a vacuum trail, into the black, into the stars, away from his sins, away from Earth. Black sedans, men in suits. The Global Defense Agency doesn't send ambulances, they send extraction teams. Cecil Stedman steps from the lead vehicle, silver hair catching the emergency lights. That distinctive scar across his left jaw, a roadmap of old battles. Black suit crisp, red tie straight, US flag pin gleaming. He surveys the crater, the ruins, the impossible destruction. One biological signature, an agent reports. Child, non-responsive. Vitals are elevated. Cecil walks through the ash. Slow, measured, every step deliberate. His brown shoes crunch on broken glass. He finds Mark in the center of the impact zone, 6 years old, kneeling, staring at nothing. The boy's chest barely moves. His brown eyes are open, but nobody's home. Cecil kneels, ignoring the dirt, ignoring the blood, eye level with the broken child. Mark, he says, voice like gravel wrapped in velvet. My name is Cecil. I'm going to take you somewhere safe. Nothing. No reaction. Cecil reaches out, gently lifts the boy, cradles him against his chest. The child weighs nothing. Feels like broken glass wrapped in skin. He's my responsibility now, Cecil says to the assembled agents. Not a question. A declaration. My son. My asset. You clear? They clear it. The facility is underground, 300 feet of concrete and steel between Mark Grayson and the world that hurt him. Cecil stands in the observation room, watching the boy through reinforced glass. Mark sits on a medical bed, not moving, not speaking. But Cecil sees it. The potential, the power, the way the air hums around him. 11 years. That's what he has. 11 years of training, of GDA technology, of turning this broken child into Earth's ultimate shield. Because Nolan Grayson is out there, somewhere in the stars. And when he returns, he won't find a scared little boy. He'll find something unstoppable. 11 years. Let that sink in. 11 years since Cecil Stedman pulled a shattered 6-year-old boy from that smoking crater in the suburbs. 11 years since Nolan Grayson abandoned Earth, fleeing into the void with blood on his hands and guilt eating his Viltrumite soul. 11 years since Mark Grayson lost everything, his mother, his innocence, his humanity, and gained this. The Global Defense Agency didn't just raise a hero, they forged a weapon. And tonight you're seeing exactly what happens when you apply military discipline to a Viltrumite hybrid. The GDA sub-level training facility, 300 feet beneath solid rock, concrete walls thick enough to survive a nuclear blast, reinforced steel doors that could stop a tank, and in the center of the kill box, Mark Grayson, age 17, 6 feet of coiled destruction wrapped in black tactical gear. Not a civilian. Not a student. Asset 01. The lights turn red. No warning, no bell, just 20 reanimen activating simultaneously around him. Cybernetic monstrosities, dead flesh fused with military-grade steel, enhanced strength that can crush concrete to powder. No fear, no hesitation, just programming, just targets. The first 3 charge. Mark doesn't waste breath on a battle cry. He moves, clinical, efficient, absolute. He intercepts the first reaniman mid-lunge, catching its throat in one hand. His fingers tighten. The neck snaps like dry wood. He uses the body as a shield against the second, feeling the impact of its metal fist against the corpse, then drives his knee through the second reaniman's chest plate. The armor dents, ribs collapse. The cyborg flies backward, smashing into the wall with enough force to spiderweb the reinforced concrete across 10 feet. The third grabs his shoulder from behind. Mark twists, just his torso. His elbow connects with the reaniman's temple. The skull fractures. The body drops. He doesn't even look at it. This isn't a fight. This is surgery. Violent, precise, devastating surgery. He weaves through the remaining 17. Each movement calculated. Every strike targeting specific kill zones. Throat, spine, skull. He doesn't float like a superhero. He doesn't pose for cameras. He destroys, methodically, ruthlessly. A reaniman swings a metal pipe hard enough to shatter a human skull. Mark catches it, bends it in his grip like wet clay, then feeds it through the cyborg's chest, impaling it on its own weapon. Another lunges. Mark catches its wrist, breaks the arm backward at the elbow, then drives his palm through its jaw. The head rocks back. The lights go out. Cecil watches from the observation deck above. That distinctive scar across his left jaw catches the harsh fluorescent light. His silver hair lies flat against his balding scalp. He doesn't flinch as Mark tears through his expensive prototypes. He doesn't blink. As 17 becomes 10, becomes 5, becomes 0. He just observes, cataloging, calculating. Mark stands alone in the center of 20 disabled cyborgs. Smoke rises from broken joints. Hydraulic fluid pools at his feet in a spreading lake of black. He's not breathing hard. His tactical gear isn't even scuffed. He looks up at the observation glass, waiting, always waiting, ready for the next command. The elevator rises. Mark steps out, still radiating heat from the exertion, still smelling of ozone and hydraulic fluid. Cecil meets him in the corridor. Black suit, white shirt, red tie. Professional, cold. But there's something in his eyes. Pride, concern, the weight of 11 years of raising a weapon that could destroy continents. Guardians are down, Cecil says. No preamble, no good job, just facts. Flaxan incursion, downtown Chicago, portals active and expanding, half a mile wide and growing. Mark wipes blood from his knuckles. Not his, never his. Contained so far. The new Guardians are holding the perimeter, but they're losing ground, fast. Cecil hands Mark a tablet. The screen shows chaos. Sick green dimensional energy, swirling like a wound in reality. Flaxan shock troops pouring through in formation. Buildings burning, civilians screaming. The portal's unstable. We estimate 20 minutes before it expands beyond our ability to close it. After that, it consumes the city, then the state. Mark studies the footage. His expression doesn't change. But you can see the focus sharpening, the predator waking up behind those brown eyes. You want me to clean it up? I want you to end it, Cecil corrects. He places a hand on Mark's shoulder. The gesture is brief, almost awkward, but it carries 11 years of breakfasts eaten in silence at GDA cafeterias, of stitches sewn in infirmaries at 3 a.m, of a man who chose to stay when everyone else left. Listen to me. The Flaxans aren't like the Reanimen. They're organized. They're armed with dimensional tech that can phase through matter. And they're expecting guardians. Heroes. Mark looks up, meets Cecil's eyes. They won't be expecting me. Cecil almost smiles. Almost. No, they won't. The armor bay. This isn't the yellow and blue spandex you know from the comics. This isn't a costume for cameras. This is GDA tactical warfare gear. Matte black ceramic plates over Viltrumite tough skin. Carbon weave joints for full mobility. Integrated weapon systems humming with charged particles. The helmet seals with a hydraulic hiss. The visor glowing crimson red. No symbol on the chest. Just a designation stamped in white. Asset 01. But underneath, he's invincible. Mark steps into the launch tube. The glass seals around him. He gives Cecil one last nod through the transparent aluminum. Coordinates locked, Cecil says over the comm, his voice crackling with authority. Launch in 3, 2, 1. The acceleration hits like a freight train. The tube fires Mark skyward at Mach 3. The city blurs beneath him into lines of light. Clouds vaporize against his armor as he punches through the atmosphere, leaving a sonic boom that shatters windows in the GDA parking lot. Faster, stronger, unstoppable. He banks toward Chicago. The horizon tears open ahead. Sick green light spills across the night sky, painting the clouds alien colors. The Flaxan portal. A wound in reality. Alien war machines already spilling through. Tanks hovering on anti-gravity. Infantry in the thousands. An invasion force. Mark doesn't slow down. He doesn't announce himself. He doesn't warn them. He just smiles behind that red visor. He descends like a meteor, like the wrath of a forgotten god. The armor systems scream as he hits terminal velocity. Targeting locks. Weapons hot. The air burns around him. The ground explodes beneath his landing. The shockwave shatters every window for 3 blocks. Craters the asphalt. Flaxan soldiers stumble, thrown off their feet by the impact, their advanced weapons clattering against the pavement. Invincible rises from the smoke. tactical armor gleaming black in the alien light, eyes burning behind that crimson visor. He surveys the army before him, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. He cracks his neck, once, twice. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. He unleashes, and you know what happens next? Total annihilation. But wait, here's the thing. The Flaxans didn't come alone. And what Invincible finds waiting inside that portal? It changes everything. Drop a comment right now. How many Flaxans do you think he takes down before they even know what hit them? And if you're not subscribed yet, you're going to want to be for what comes next. Smash that like button if you got chills from that launch sequence. He'll find something unstoppable. The sky over Chicago doesn't just darken. It ruptures. A jagged tear, sickly green, vomiting lightning and alien steel. Flaxans pour through, 7 feet tall, antennae twitching, weapons already hot. And below, screams, fire, the end of a normal Tuesday. But then, he arrives. The sonic boom hits before the silhouette registers. Concrete explodes outward in a spiderweb crater. Asset-01 doesn't land. He impacts. 17 years old, black tactical gear, no cape, no colors, just the GDA insignia on his shoulder, and blood already drying on his knuckles. Around him, the old guard is struggling. A blur of red cuts through the smoke. Red Rush, Russian speedster, glass visors, suits screaming with Cyrillic initials. He's evacuating civilians by the dozen, carrying them at supersonic speeds, but the Flaxans keep coming. Water erupts from a busted hydrant, twisting into a sledgehammer. King Aquarius, blue skin, gills, fins snapping taut. He crushes a Flaxan against a bus, but 3 more take its place. Green Ghost phases through a building. Alana, dreadlocks in her civilian form, but right now she's pure emerald energy, intangible, pulling children through solid concrete to safety. Martian Man stretches like taffy, olive skin, rectangular head, yellow eyes, wrapping elastic limbs around aliens and squeezing. Black Samson arcs electricity from his fists, cornrows whipping, disc armor sparking as he throws 20-ton punches into the invaders. From the shadows, Darkwing descends, tall, lack mask, grey chestplate, cape snapping like a flag. No powers, just peak human perfection and explosive discs that pop against Flaxan armor. And above them all, the Immortal, jet black hair, steel blue eyes, blue jumpsuit straining against biceps like cannonballs. He's punching through a tank. Warwoman stands beside him, club raised, screaming a battle cry that predates civilization. They're holding the line, but they're not winning. Until Mark moves. He doesn't announce himself. He doesn't posture. He unleashes. The first Flaxan raises a rifle. Mark catches the barrel, crushes it. The alien's eyes go wide. Mark's palm strikes its throat. The crack echoes over the gunfire. The body drops. He spins, elbow to sternum. Catastrophic force. Ribs implode. He moves through the vanguard like a scythe through wheat. Faster, stronger, unstoppable. Red Rush zips past, carrying a wounded cop, and freezes. He sees it. Mark isn't incapacitating. He's executing. Neck snaps, skulls crushed under boots. Viltrumite strength applied with GDA precision. Clinical, lethal. The Flaxans aren't being defeated. They're being erased. Green Ghost phases up, horrified. Stop! We can contain them. Mark doesn't answer. He grabs a Flaxan by the antennae and drives it knee first into the pavement. The skull caves. He moves to the next, and the next. The Immortal lands in front of him. Heavy, hard, a wall of muscle and blue spandex. Stand down. We don't kill. Mark stops, turns. His eyes are dead, flat. 17 years old, going on 1,000. Asset-01 doesn't have non-lethal protocols. Warwoman steps up, club dripping with alien ichor. There's a line between soldier and monster. Mark looks at the portal, the source, the glowing wound in reality. Your line is why you're losing. He launches, not at them, through them. The Immortal reaches out, misses. Mark flies straight into the Flaxan vanguard, grabs the portal frame, metal screams, alarms blare from the alien tech. He pulls, superhuman strength meets dimensional engineering. The structure bends, twists, collapses inward. The tear in reality snaps shut with a sound like thunder. The remaining Flaxans flicker, trapped, Cut off. Mark stands in the crater, chest heaving, not from exertion, from restraint. He looks at the dead, dozens of them, necks snapped, chests caved. He doesn't flinch, doesn't pray. He launches into the sky, gone. No debrief, no acknowledgement, just the sonic boom fading. Silence falls over the intersection. Red Rush sets down the last civilian. His hands are shaking. Not from speed, from what he witnessed. Green Ghost solidifies, clutching her stomach. Martian Man retracts his elastic limbs, staring at the crushed bodies. Black Samson's electricity fizzles out. Darkwing checks his explosives, but his eyes are on the sky. The Immortal stands in the center of the carnage, looks at Warwoman, looks at the others. Who? Who was that? Warwoman wipes her club clean. Her hands are trembling too. Not a hero. The comms crackle. Cecil Stedman's voice. Scarred jaw. Silver hair. Cold authority. Guardians, report. The Immortal punches the concrete wall. The stone cracks. He leans into the mic. Stedman, we need to talk about your weapon before he turns that efficiency on us. Drop a comment right now. How long until the Guardians try to stop Asset-01 themselves? And if you're not subscribed yet, you're gonna want to be for what comes next. Smash that like button if you got chills from that efficiency. He doesn't just win. He terminates every single threat. And Cecil Stedman? He's just getting started. The Guardians have spoken. Cecil Stedman listens. The scar across his jaw tightens as Warwoman's voice fades from the secure line. She's talking about brutality, about methods, about a 17-year-old boy who executes invaders like he's checking boxes on a ledger, who snapped Flaxan necks while the so-called heroes watched in horror. Cecil doesn't flinch. He already knows. Because Asset-01 isn't his son when the mask goes on. Asset-01 is the Global Defense Agency's answer to extinction-level events. The weapon raised from trauma, forged in GDA training facilities, unleashed only when diplomacy fails. And 2 weeks after the Chicago incident, after Mark physically tore that portal down with his bare hands and left the Guardians standing in ashen silence, the heroes are finally starting to understand what they've been protected by. But that's not why we're here today. We're here because something's coming from above. Something confused, something searching, and it's about to find exactly what it's looking for. High above Earth, higher than satellites, higher than the International Space Station, higher than hope itself. A figure hangs in the void, suspended against the backdrop of stars. Orange skin catches the solar glare, vibrant, unnatural, genetically engineered perfection. Muscular build, humanoid frame, diminutive pointed ears twitching against the vacuum. But the face is dominated by a single massive eye. White sclera, a tiny horizontal rectangle pupil that stands, searches, evaluates. Alan the Alien, Coalition Evaluation Officer, last son of a species nearly eradicated by the Viltrumite Empire. Born in Unipan breeding facilities to be a defense against monsters. Trained from birth to find the one being who can stop the conquerors. He raises his scanner. The Coalition device hums in his grip, seeking genetic markers, seeking power signatures, seeking Urath. But the coordinates are wrong. Confusion creases that solitary eye. His neural implant crackles with telepathic static as he tries to recalibrate. This isn't Urath, he mutters to the void. This is Earth. His ship's sensors scream, because something is rising. Fast, unstoppable. A blur of black tactical gear and Viltrumite velocity tearing through the mesosphere like a spear aimed directly at his heart. Alan has exactly 0.4 seconds to react. He doesn't make it. The impact isn't a punch, it's a statement. Asset-01 doesn't announce himself. He doesn't posture. He simply arrives, fist first, driving Alan through the thermosphere at max speeds. The atmosphere burns around them, but Asset-01 doesn't slow. 11 years of GDA combat training layered over Viltrumite physiology. Lethal efficiency, wrapped in superhuman durability. They hit the Arctic tundra, Ice explodes outward in a crater 50 meters wide. Shockwaves shatter ancient glaciers. Alan rolls, regenerative healing factor already knitting cracked ribs and burst organs, and looks up through the snow. The boy descends. Black hair with that distinctive widow's peak. Brown eyes colder than the permafrost. No bright costume, no heroic symbol, just a black GDA tactical suit and the absolute indifference of someone raised to end threats, not debate them. "You scanned my planet," Asset-01 says, voice flat, clinical, mechanical. "You don't scan without clearance." Alan pushes himself up. Superhuman strength surges through orange limbs, enough to lift tons, enough to fight Viltrumites. "I'm Alan, Coalition of Planets. I'm looking for a warrior to stop." He doesn't finish. Asset-01 is already inside his guard. A palm strike crushes Alan's larynx. A knee lifts into his solar plexus with enough force to bend steel. As Alan doubles over, an elbow, a precise GDA-taught killing blow, slams into the base of his skull. Alan tries to fly, tries to blast upward through the crater rim, but Asset-01 catches his ankle, swings him, once, twice, a humanoid wrecking ball. Alan rockets into a mountainside 3 miles away. Nigh invulnerability keeps him alive, but his vision swims. He heals in seconds, regenerative factor working overtime, but those seconds cost him everything. Because Asset-01 is already there, standing on his chest, one boot pressing against that massive single eye, grinding down with calculated pressure. "Who sent you?" Asset-01 asks. No anger, just interrogation. Alan gasps, healing finished, bones mending with audible cracks. "The Coalition. We need a Viltrumite killer, someone strong enough to stop the Empire." Asset-01 doesn't move, doesn't blink, just applies slightly more pressure. "Please," Alan chokes out. "I thought this was Urath. I didn't know Earth had you." The boot lifts. Asset-01 steps back. Lets Alan rise. The fight's over, and both of them know it. Alan's reactive adaptation might make him stronger eventually, might evolve him past this beating. But right now he's looking at a 17-year-old who just tactically dismantled a Coalition officer trained to fight Viltrumites in under 30 seconds. Alan stands, wipes orange blood from his mouth. "You're him," he breathes. "The hybrid, the son of—" "Don't." Mark Grayson steps back. The name matters now. The codename drops away like a weapon being holstered. This isn't combat. This is identity. This is the boy beneath the asset. "My name is Mark," he says, quieter, but somehow heavier, denser, and I know exactly what I am. Alan stares at him with that massive eye, really looks, sees the widow's peak, the build, the way he hovers without effort, inner ear balancing systems working automatically. "Viltrumite genetics," Alan says. "Your father killed my mother when I was 6, Mark interrupts. "I watched him do it. Watched the blood cover his hands. Then he left. Coward. Monster." He turns away, looks at the endless white horizon. "So don't tell me about the Viltrumite Empire. Don't tell me about conquest and glory and species dominance. I know what they are. I know what he was." Alan spreads his hands, placating. "The Empire destroys worlds, Mark. They eradicated my people. The Coalition needs someone who can stand against them. Someone with your power, your strength." "No." Mark turns back. His eyes aren't cold anymore. They're focused, laser-targeted. "I don't fight for the Coalition. I don't fight for glory. I fight because Cecil Stedman raised me to protect Earth. Because Asset-01 doesn't have non-lethal protocols." He steps closer. "Your Empire, your Viltrumite conquerors, if they come here, I'll stop them. Not because I'm one of them, but because I'm the thing they fear most." "What's that?" "A weapon who doesn't want to rule, only to terminate." The GDA facility, underground, sterile white walls, and the hum of fluorescent lights that never turn off. Cecil Stedman stands by the reinforced window, looking at nothing, his scarred jaw working silently beneath the silver hair. Mark Grayson stands at attention, 3 feet behind him, not relaxed, never relaxed, even here, even with the only father he's known for 11 years. "The alien's name is Alan," Mark reports, detached, professional, the asset speaking. "Unopan, Coalition of Planets Evaluation Officer, genetically engineered for anti-Viltrumite warfare. He was seeking a warrior to oppose the Empire's expansion. Cecil nods, doesn't turn. And you told him? Nothing he didn't already know. Mark pauses. He mentioned the Viltrumite threat, their conquest protocols. He thinks I'm the answer to their prayers. The hybrid who can stop the genocide. Are you? Cecil asks, still not turning. Are you their answer? Mark meets the back of Cecil's head. I'm your answer. That's all. Asset 01 is Earth's defense, not the Coalition's, not the Galaxy's. Yours. Cecil turns. The scar seems to pulse in the harsh light. The Guardians called again. They're filing formal complaints, concerned about your methodology in Chicago. Methodology saves lives, Mark says. Theirs didn't. They hesitated. They talked. The Flaxans kept coming. He tilts his head, bird-like, calculating. I ended it. That may be true, but perception matters. You're 17, Mark. The world sees a child soldier. Mark's expression doesn't change, not a flicker. Then the world should be grateful their child soldier fights for them instead of against them. Silence stretches between them, father and son, director and asset. Alan is leaving, Cecil says finally. He wanted to thank you. I don't need thanks. No, you don't. Cecil steps closer, almost touches Mark's shoulder, stops. But you might need this. He holds out a file. Viltrumite Empire tactical data. Everything Alan shared. If they're coming. Mark takes the file. Doesn't open it. Let them come, he says. Space. Cold and infinite, and indifferent. Alan straps into his Coalition vessel, his body healed, but his mind racing through neural implant calculations. He opens a channel. Telepathic transmission across light years, instant, silent. Coalition command, he transmits. This is Evaluation Officer Alan. Priority update on Earth assignment. Static, then the response in his mind. Report. Alan looks back at the blue planet through the viewport, at the boy who broke him without breaking a sweat, who rejected an empire, who chose to be a weapon instead of a conqueror. Earth has no hero, Alan says. Earth has a weapon, genetically modified, GDA raised, lethal beyond measure, effective beyond calculation. He hesitates, that single eye blinking. And he wants nothing to do with us. He rejects the Viltrumite heritage. He fights for Earth alone. Is he sufficient to stop the Empire? Alan's hand drifts to his ribs, still remembering the knee strike, the clinical precision, the absolute rejection of mercy. He's sufficient, Alan says, but he's not saving the galaxy for glory. He's saving Earth because it's programmed into him. And if the Viltrumites come looking for conquest, God help them, because he won't. The transmission ends. Alan engages thrusters. Earth shrinks to a dot, then a pixel, then nothing. And somewhere below, in a sterile GDA facility, Asset 01 watches the stars through reinforced glass, not waiting for rescue, not hoping for backup, just calculating trajectories, threat vectors, kill zones, always calculating, always ready.
1 week, 7 days, since that orange alien vanished into the void, leaving Mark Grayson with a galaxy's worth of warning echoing in his skull.
The Viltrumites are coming. An empire of conquest, of death. And Mark? He's been training, harder than ever. But he doesn't know that today, the battlefield changes. Today, he meets someone who sees the world differently. Someone who doesn't bend the knee to the Global Defense Agency. Her name is Atom Eve. Downtown, midday. Chaos erupts like a bomb. 2 figures, identical, massive, blue skin stretched over muscle that shouldn't exist. Shaved heads, black leotards with that stark white M screaming across their chests. The Mauler twins. They're tearing through a reinforced vault like it's paper. Concrete explodes, civilians scream. One twin lifts an armored truck overhead, just hoists it into the air like a toy, and hurls it through a skyscraper window. Glass rains down. Destruction. Pure, unfiltered destruction. And then, pink light cuts through the smoke. She descends like a falling star,
Red hair, green eyes blazing, that form-fitting pink suit with the atomic symbol burning bright on her chest. Atom Eve. She doesn't wait. She doesn't hesitate. She raises her hand and the Mauler's next missile, a chunk of rebar the size of a tree trunk, transmutes midair, turns to petals. Pink petals that drift down over the chaos. She's not GDA. She's not military. She's independent. And she is precise. But she's not alone. The sky cracks. A blur of blue and yellow drops from orbit. No, not drops. Slams. Invincible. S1 hits the pavement hard enough to crater the asphalt. The shockwave shatters windows for 3 blocks. He doesn't float. He doesn't pose. He moves. Mark Grayson, 17 years old, and already a weapon beyond measure, courtesy of Cecil's training. He doesn't see the artistry in Eve's transmutation. He sees a threat that needs elimination. The Mauler twins roar. They charge. One swings a fist the size of a wrecking ball. Mark catches it, stops it cold. Then he twists. Bone snaps. The twin screams. Mark drives his knee into the alien's gut. Once, twice, then spins him like a discus and launches him into the side of a building. Concrete dust explodes. The structure groans. Eve throws up an energy construct, a wall of solid pink light. But Mark is already past it. He's inside the second twin's guard. Elbow to the jaw, palm strike to the sternum. The GDA didn't teach him to pull punches. They taught him to end fights. He slams the twin's head into the pavement. Once, twice, 3 times. Blood paints the concrete blue. The Mauler goes limp. Silence, heavy, thick. Atom Eve lands beside him, her boots touching down on pink energy that dissipates like mist. She looks at the crater, the collapsed wall, the shattered street. Then she looks at him. Really looks. Invincible, right? Her voice is steady, but there's fire underneath. You almost brought that building down on those civilians. You shattered 3 load-bearing walls. Mark wipes blue blood from his knuckles. Doesn't look at her. S1 neutralizes threats. Collateral damage is calculated. Acceptable. Acceptable? She steps closer. The atomic symbol on her chest seems to glow brighter with her anger. There's a difference between stopping criminals and demolishing a city block. Who trained you? The GDA? Now he looks at her. His eyes are cold, focused. You don't understand what's coming. The threats I face, they don't care about your rules, about your precision. And you don't care about the people living here? She gestures at the dust, the wreckage. I transmuted that debris into mist. You punched through it. What if someone had been inside? Mark's jaw tightens. Then there would be casualties of war, acceptable losses. The words hang there, poisonous, wrong. Eve shakes her head. You're not a hero, you're a weapon. And weapons, they break things. They don't save them. Before Mark can respond, before he can process the sting of that accusation, his earpiece crackles. Cecil's voice, calm, authoritative, unmistakable. S1, return to base immediately. We have a situation. Mark touches the comm. Copy. He looks at Eve one last time. Stay out of GDA business. You won't like what happens if you interfere. Then he's gone. A sonic boom as he breaks atmosphere, leaving her standing in the crater of his making. Atom Eve watches him vanish into the clouds. Her hands clench into fists. Pink energy sparks between her fingers. S1, she whispers. Let's see what the Global Defense Agency is hiding. 3 hours later, GDA headquarters, sublevel 12. Mark stands at attention before Cecil's desk. The scar across the director's jaw catches the fluorescent light. His silver hair is immaculate. His eyes are drilling into Mark with that familiar, calculating weight. You were reckless today, Cecil says. Not angry, assessing. The Wilkins girl is asking questions. She's accessing restricted databases, looking for you. She's a civilian with powers, a variable. Should I neutralize the threat? Cecil leans back. No, not yet. She's useful. But I need you to understand something, Mark. You're not just a soldier. You're my son. And that girl? She sees something in you that I need to control. The independent heroes are gathering, watching. They don't trust the GDA. Should I care? Mark says. Cecil smiles, thin, sharp. You should, because if she finds out what you really are, what Nolan was, what you could become. She might try to stop you. And I don't want to have to kill her.
Mark's fists clench at his sides. The image of Debbie flashes. Blood on the floor. His mother's eyes. The trauma that made him.
I'll handle it, Mark says. You always do.
Cecil taps his desk. Dismissed, but across the city, in a small apartment lit only by the glow of multiple monitors, Samantha Eve Wilkins, Atom Eve, stares at a file she shouldn't have found. Her fingers tremble. The screen glows with classified GDA data. Photos of a 6-year-old boy standing over a body. Blood everywhere. Training records that read like war crimes. And a designation that chills her to the bone. Project Asset 01. Mark Grayson. Viltrumite human hybrid. Threat level. Extinction. She leans back. Her heart pounds. She thought he was just another government thug. But this is something else. Something terrifying. And you know what happens next? She's going to find him. She's going to confront him. And when she does, the truth about what Mark Grayson really is, the monster he's been trained to become, it's going to shatter everything. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Atom Eve can save him from himself? Or is Mark too far gone? Smash that like button if you got chills from that file reveal. And subscribe, because next chapter... 3 days. That's all it took for the past to come knocking. Nolan Grayson descends through the atmosphere like a falling star. But there's no fanfare, no triumphant return. Just a man who ran from his sins, coming back to face the wreckage he left behind. He lands outside the Global Defense Agency facility with enough force to crack the asphalt. The man who once called himself Omni-Man, the murderer who buried his wife with his own 2 hands. Cecil Stedman waits at the entrance, silver hair catching the moonlight, that distinctive scar running across his jaw like a warning label. Eyes that have seen every possible nightmare this world can conjure. He doesn't flinch when the ground trembles beneath Nolan's boots. He doesn't reach for a weapon, because against something like this, weapons don't matter. Only will. You're not welcome here, Cecil says. His voice is quiet, controlled. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm that tears cities apart. Nolan steps forward. The white and grey uniform he abandoned years ago is gone. He wears simple earth clothes now. A man trying to be something he forgot how to be. I came for Mark. You lost that right 11 years ago. Cecil corrects him, and the word lands like a slap. Now he's Asset 01, the most effective weapon this planet has ever produced. And you're just the ghost that made him, the trauma that forged him. The tension here is thick enough to choke on. This isn't a hero meeting his handler. This is a father confronting the man who stole his son and turned him into something unrecognizable. He's not the boy you remember, Cecil warns. His eyes narrow. I made sure of that. The sky tears open. Mark Grayson drops from the clouds. 17 years old. Shoulders broader than they should be at that age. Packed with muscle, forged by GDA enhancement protocols, and Viltrumite genetics pushed to their absolute limit. He doesn't run to his father. He doesn't cry. He lands with military precision 10 feet away, his boots clicking against the concrete in perfect synchronicity. The tactical gear hugs his frame, black and grey, utilitarian, bristling with tech augmentations at his wrists and spine. No colourful costume, no symbol of hope, just efficiency. Nolan's face cracks. Horror, pure unadulterated horror washes over him like a wave. He sees it, the weapon, the thing he created in his moment of weakness, standing before him in the shape of his child. The eyes are the worst. Brown, like his mother's, but empty. Cold. Calculating. The name barely makes it out of Nolan's throat. Asset 01, Mark corrects. His voice is flat, mechanical. The voice of someone who has compartmentalized every emotion into a box labeled irrelevant. Identify yourself and stake to your business. Nolan reaches out a hand. It trembles. I'm your father. You killed my mother. Mark doesn't blink. He doesn't step back. He states it as fact, as data, as a mission parameter. You don't get to be my father. You don't get to be anything. It explodes. Nolan moves first. Viltrumite speed.
a blur of muscle and rage and desperate regret. He closes the distance in a heartbeat, reaching to grab Mark by the shoulders, to shake him, to hold him, and somehow make the boy he remembers come back from wherever he's buried. Mark doesn't flinch. He sidesteps with perfect GDA combat training, years of Cecil's drilling, of muscle memory etched into his hybrid physiology. He drives an elbow into Nolan's ribs with a crack that echoes across the compound. Reinforced with tech, amplified with Viltrumite strength. The sound is wet. Nolan staggers. He wasn't ready. He expected anger. He expected tears. He didn't expect efficiency. Mark unleashes. This isn't a boy throwing a tantrum. This is a weapon unleashing devastation with clinical precision. He spins, delivering a roundhouse kick that catches Nolan's jaw and sends the older Viltrumite crashing through the facility wall. Concrete explodes. Steel bends like paper. Mark follows, his flight leaving a sonic boom in his wake. They clash above the city. Nolan tries to recover. Tries to use centuries of combat experience, the techniques that conquered worlds. He throws a punch that could shatter a mountain. Mark blocks it. Not with strength alone. With angles. With physics. He redirects the force, twists Nolan's wrist, and drives a knee into his father's sternum. You trained him well, Nolan snarls down at Cecil, who watches from the crater below, his face illuminated by the chaos above. I trained him to survive monsters, Cecil replies, his voice carrying on the wind. I trained him so he'd never be helpless again. Nolan roars. Raw, primal. He charges, full Viltrumite assault. Fists blur into a storm of devastation. He stops holding back. He can't afford to. Mark meets him head-on. He doesn't just fight. He dismantles. He uses the environment, the buildings, the power lines, the very air itself. He grabs Nolan by the cape and uses his father's momentum to hurl him into a water tower. The metal ruptures. Thousands of gallons crash down. Mark doesn't wait for the water to clear. He drives through it, fists first, catching Nolan in the stomach and then the chin, a 1-2 combination that would have killed any human instantly. They ascend, higher, through clouds, through the atmosphere, into the void where biplane froze solid, where the silence is absolute, and the stars burn cold. You left, Mark says, his voice carrying even in the vacuum, vibrating through the molecules between them. You ran. Nolan's eyes widen. Blood floats from his split lip in crimson globules. Mark can survive space. Of course he can. But the cold doesn't touch Mark's expression. The void in his eyes is worse than the void around them. Emptier. I was weak, Nolan admits. His voice cracks. I was wrong. Yes. Mark's fist connects with Nolan's jaw. An uppercut that sends the older Viltrumite spinning end over end. And I had to become strong because of it. I had to become what you feared, what you couldn't control. They crash back to Earth. A crater forms 50 feet wide. Dust settles in slow motion, the particles hanging in the air like they're afraid to touch what lies below. Nolan lies broken, not dead. Mark knows exactly how much damage a Viltrumite can take. Bones knitting already, blood pooling in the dirt. Mark could end him. The training taught him how. Pressure points in the neck. The precise amount of force to apply to the brainstem before regeneration can't keep up. Mark stands over him, the sun behind his head like a halo, casting his face in shadow. But there's no mercy here, only resolution. Only the cold certainty of a choice made years ago in a kitchen filled with blood. I should end you, Mark says. His voice is quiet now, clinical. For what you did to her. For what you made me become. For every night I woke up screaming and reached for a weapon instead of a blanket. Nolan coughs blood. It sprays across his chin. Then do it. If that's what you need, do it. Mark steps back. He holsters the tech at his wrists. No. He looks down at the man who gave him life and then tried to take everything else. You're already dead to me. You died the moment you chose your empire over us. Over me. Over the boy who loved you. Nolan reaches out a trembling hand. Mark, please. Don't. The word cuts like a blade through bone. My name is S1-4, and if I ever see you again, if you ever come back to this planet thinking you can claim what you threw away. He leans down, close enough that Nolan can see the emptiness where his childhood used to live. I won't hesitate. There will be no crater, just ash. Mark turns. He walks away, leaves his father bleeding in the dirt, leaves the past screaming in the crater. He doesn't look back. Why would he? The dead don't get second chances. He returns to Cecil. The handler waits at the facility entrance with a towel, with medical supplies, with that look in his eyes that says he knew exactly how this would end. And he's proud of the restraint shown, even as he mourns the cost of it. Next assignment? Mark asks. No emotion, no tremor in his voice. Just the soldier. Cecil nods, placing a hand on Mark's shoulder. The touch of a father who chose to stay. We've got a situation in Paris. Viltrumite energy signature. Possible scout. Mark adjusts his gear. The blood on his knuckles isn't his own. Then let's move. He walks into the facility. The doors close behind him. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Nolan deserved that mercy? Or should Mark have finished the job and ended the threat permanently? Smash that like button if that father-son battle hit different, and subscribe, because next chapter, the Viltrumite Empire finally locates their lost soldier. And trust me, when they see what Earth's done to Nolan's son, they're not going to send an envoy. We begin in silence, not the quiet of a peaceful home, but the sterile, soundproofed hum of the Global Defense Agency. Deep beneath the earth, in a room of polished steel and cold blue light, stands a young man, 17 years old, black hair, widow's peak, a lean, powerful frame built not for high school football, but for war. This is Mark Grayson, and he is waiting for his father. A man steps out of the shadows, middle-aged, with shoulder-length silver hair and a suit as sharp as his gaze. A jagged scar carves a story across his left jaw. This is Cecil Stedman, director of the GDA, the man who found a broken 6-year-old boy in a house of blood and forged him into a weapon. Mark, Cecil's voice is calm, measured. It's the voice that has guided Mark his entire life. We have a situation. On the holographic display, an image appears. A woman, tall with short black hair, tan skin, and striking blue eyes. She wears the unmistakable uniform of the Viltrum Empire. Her name is Anissa, Cecil states, his tone clinical. She made landfall over Paris 30 minutes ago. She hasn't made a move, but we know why she's here. She's a scout, a prelude. Mark's eyes are locked on the image. No fear, no surprise. Just analysis. Cecil continues. This is not a negotiation. It's not a conversation. Your father, Nolan, he tried to talk. He tried to reason. We know how that ended. This is a threat elimination protocol, Mark. You will engage. You will neutralize. Is that understood? Mark simply nods. He doesn't call him Dad here. Not when the mission is on the table. Here he is S1, and Cecil is his handler. It's the only way this works. The only way he's survived. Cecil places a hand on his shoulder. For just a second, the director is gone. It's just a father. Be smart, be fast, come home. The sky over Paris is a brilliant blue, a perfect day. Tourists mill around the Eiffel Tower, unaware of the god descending from the heavens. Anissa floats, arms crossed, an expression of supreme confidence on her face. She is a Viltrumite warrior, the strongest of their women. She is here to check on Nolan's progress, to assess this world for assimilation. She expects a report, a welcome. She does not expect the sonic boom that shatters windows for 3 blocks. He arrives like a thunderclap, a blur of yellow, blue, and black. He doesn't slow down. He doesn't posture. He doesn't speak. S1 crashes into her with the force of a meteor strike. The impact sends a shockwave rippling through the air, buckling the iron lattice of the tower beneath them. Anissa is driven back. shock registering on her face for the first time in centuries. This is a Viltrumite, a hybrid, but the power is undeniable. But this strength, it's raw, unfiltered, savage. He's on her again before she can recover. His fists are hammers, but there's something more. A high-frequency hum emanates from his gloves. It's a targeted sonic assault, designed for one purpose: to scramble the complex balancing system in a Viltrumite's inner ear. Her flight becomes unstable. Her senses swim. "Who are you?" she snarls, landing a solid right hook that sends him careening into a Parisian rooftop, shattering clay tiles and splintering timbers. He rises from the dust, unfazed. He just wipes a trickle of blood from his lip. He doesn't answer. He just attacks. Faster, stronger. He's not fighting like a warrior. He's fighting like a terminator. Every blow is aimed at a weak point. Every move is calculated for maximum damage. This isn't a duel. It's an execution. He drives her down, street level. Cars become projectiles. Cobblestone streets crack and splinter under their devastating exchange. Anissa is powerful, legendary, but she's caught off guard by this relentless, brutal efficiency. This boy fights with no honor, no code, only the mission. A streak of red, white, and blue hits the ground between them. The immortal. His face is a mask of fury, not at the alien invader, but at the destruction. "Enough!" he roars, his ancient eyes blazing. Behind him, the rest of the Guardians of the Globe descend. And with them, a flash of pink energy. Atom Eve throws up a translucent shield, catching a bus that Mark had just thrown, saving a dozen civilians from being crushed. "What are you doing?" Eve screams at him, her voice laced with horror. "You're going to level the city." Mark doesn't even look at her. His eyes are locked on his target.
"Stay out of this," he says, his voice a low growl.
"This is a GDA operation."
The immortal steps forward. "We are the Guardians of the Globe. Protecting this city is our operation, and right now you're as much of a threat as she is." This is the moment. The hesitation. Anissa sees it. An opening. She lunges, not at Mark, but at the heroes. At the civilians. Chaos is her shield. But Mark is faster. He intercepts her, grabbing her by the throat and slamming her through the wall of a 5-story building. The entire structure groans, threatening to collapse. Eve is already moving, her pink constructs wrapping around the building, trying to hold it together. "Mark, stop. People will die." He doesn't listen. He pummels Anissa, blow after devastating blow. He is going to finish this. He is going to follow his orders. But the intervention has cost him. It cost him momentum. It cost him the element of surprise. Anissa, bloodied and breathing hard, sees her chance. With a final desperate burst of strength, she shoves him back, creating just enough space. Her eyes burn with a mixture of fury and confusion. This world wasn't supposed to have a defender like this savage. She doesn't say a word. She just turns and flees, a silver streak rocketing into the upper atmosphere, gone. She is wounded. She is humiliated. And she will be back. Mark watches her go, his body tense, ready to give chase. But a voice crackles in his ear. Cecil's voice. "Asset 01. Stand down. The order is crisp. Final. The target has retreated. Mission objective has been met. Return to base." Slowly, painfully, Mark unclenches his fists. He stands amidst the wreckage, the dust settling around him. The cries of the injured fill the air. The Guardians are staring at him, not as an ally, but as a monster. The immortal floats down, his expression grim. He taps his comlink, his voice echoing in the GDA control room, hundreds of miles away. "Cecil," he says, his voice dangerously low. "We need to talk. About your boy." A pause hangs in the air, thick with unspoken accusation. "He's not a hero, Cecil. He's a weapon of mass destruction you just pointed at a major city. You tell me, what's the difference between him and the Viltrumite who just fled? From where I'm standing, there isn't one. You've raised a bigger threat." The political fallout from Paris is a storm. But some storms are cover. A chance to move unseen in the chaos. And deep in a hidden sub-basement, a different kind of storm is brewing. Here, there are no governments.
No heroes, only ambition. Before a machine of impossible geometry stands a tall, slender man. His name is Angstrom Levy. He is flanked by giants, blue-skinned, impossibly muscled, identical down to the last scowl. The Mauler twins. One of them grunts, a sound like grinding stones. The energy fluctuations are unprecedented. Are you certain this is wise? Angstrom doesn't turn. His eyes are fixed on the shimmering portal at the heart of his creation. Wisdom, he says, his voice calm, precise, is the entire point. You think I built this just to peek through windows at other worlds? No, this machine will unify. It will take the consciousness of every Angstrom Levy across every reality and pour their knowledge, their experience, into me. He finally looks at them, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. I will not just study the multiverse. I will contain it. The other Mauler scoffs. A god complex. How original. Not a god. Angstrom smiles. Something better. Something certain. He straightens his shirt, takes a final breath of this singular reality, and steps onto the platform. The air crackles around him. He is a scientist at the precipice of his life's work. He gives a simple nod. Begin. The Mauler twins share a look, a shrug. They were paid for engineering, not philosophy. They throw the master switch. The machine whines to life. Light bends, sound distorts. Energy fields, pure and white, envelop Angstrom Levy as his mind begins to unspool, reaching out across the infinite, ready to become more. Miles away, in the cold, sterile quiet of the GDA command center, a new order is given. Cecil Stedman's voice is flat, devoid of emotion, a simple directive for his greatest asset. Signal Intelligence has flagged component purchases consistent with a Mauler Twins weapons program. You know the protocol, Asset 01. Terminate the operation. Extreme prejudice. For Mark Grayson, this is just another Tuesday, another target, another mission. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't need context. He is a guided missile, and his trajectory is set. Back in the lab, the procedure hits its peak. The hum becomes a roar. Angstrom's consciousness is everywhere at once. He sees 1,000 Earths, 1,000,000 choices, 1,000,000,000 lifetimes playing out in a single glorious instant. He is expanding. He is becoming more. The back wall of the lab does not open. It does not buckle. It ceases to exist. A concussive blast of concrete and steel tears through the room. Standing in the jagged hole, silhouetted against the dust-choked light, is a figure in black tactical gear. Asset 01. He sees two blue giants. He sees the mission. He moves, faster than thought. The first Mauler twin doesn't even have time to raise its fists before Mark is on him, a brutal, driving punch that caves in its chest. The second twin swings a piece of industrial machinery like a club. Mark ducks under it, his motion a fluid, devastating dance. He pivots, unleashing a follow-through blow, a haymaker meant to shatter the second Mauler's skull and end the fight. But the twin stumbles back, and the punch, carrying the force of a meteor, misses its mark. It connects instead with the central sync coil of the dimensional synthesis machine. There is a sound, not an explosion, a rupture, a shriek of tearing reality. The brilliant white light around Angstrom turns a sickening, bloody red. The synthesis doesn't complete. It fractures. The connection to 1,000,000,000 realities doesn't close. It shatters, and the feedback loop reverses. 1,000,000,000 alternate lives are crammed back into Angstrom's skull. But not his lives. The lives of the boy who just broke his machine. Raw, jagged, unfinished memories. Memories of a Mark Grayson who joined his father. A Mark who slaughtered heroes. A Mark who burned worlds. 1,000,000,000 versions of a monster. Each one screaming, clawing, fighting for space inside one man's head. His body convulses. His skull distends, the skin stretching, tearing, as his brain swells with an agony beyond comprehension. He is being remade, not into a transcendent genius, but into a living map of infinite hate. Mark sees the second Mauler go down. He glances at the sparking, dying machine. He registers the spasming figure inside. His internal calculus is cold, efficient, non-combatant civilian, neutralized by machine malfunction. Mission complete. He turns, and he walks out. The sound of his boots on the concrete floor is the last thing Angstrom Levy hears before the pain swallows him whole. Mark Grayson doesn't know it. He doesn't even care. But he did not just walk out of a lab. He walked out of his own grave, having just handed the shovel to the man who will dig it. While the city's emergency services and GDA assets are stretched thin, dealing with the fallout in Paris, someone else sees an opportunity. In a darkened room, illuminated only by the glow of a monitor, Eve Wilkins works. Her fingers fly across the keyboard. The chaos is her cover. The GDA's diverted attention is her open door. She moves through layers of digital security. Firewalls crumble. Encryption algorithms untangle. She isn't looking for mission reports or weapon specs. She's hunting for something far more dangerous. The truth. She's looking for the file on S1-4. She needs to know what Cecil did to the boy she once knew. What he turned Mark into. Finally, she hits it. The last wall. A Citadel-level encryption, keyed directly to Cecil Stedman's personal biometric signature. Unbreakable, for anyone else. But Eve finds a crack. An old diagnostic port. A forgotten backdoor from a system upgrade years ago. She slips through, and the file opens. The unredacted file. It's all there. Everything, starting from age 6. It's not a training regimen. It's a psychological blueprint. Systematic desensitization protocols, empathy suppression exercises, logged and graded. A curated media diet designed to reinforce loyalty to the GDA and normalize lethal force. Behavioral reports tracking the gradual decline of emotional response. She sees a child's crayon drawings of a woman with black hair, filed right next to reports of its first kill simulation. She sees a program designed not to train a hero, but to carefully, methodically, piece by painstaking piece, erase a human being. Her worst fears were a pale imitation of this cold, calculated reality. Cecil didn't raise a son, he forged a weapon, and he used a dead mother's memory as the hammer. In another secret lab, a GDA cleanup lab, his body has stopped its grotesque transformation. He pushes himself up, his limbs shaking, and forces himself to look at a polished metal panel on the wall. He sees his reflection. His head is no longer human. It is a swollen, grotesque mass of exposed cerebral tissue, crisscrossed with thick, pulsing veins and scar tissue, a monument to fractured infinity. He remembers the bootsteps, the casual, dismissive departure of the boy in black, the boy who walked into his ascension and tore it to pieces without a second thought. The memories scream in his head, 1,000 marks, 1,000,000 atrocities. But through the cacophony, one crystal-clear thought emerges, spoken in a voice that is his, and yet 1,000,000,000 others. It's not about the multiverse anymore. It's not about Invincible, the abstract threat. It's about Mark Grayson, and the vengeance he is about to unleash will be personal. It will be specific, and it will be absolute. Weeks have passed since the man called Angstrom Levy clawed his way back from oblivion. His vow of vengeance echoes in the silence between dimensions, a promise waiting to be kept. But the cosmos does not wait. While one monster licks his wounds, another threat begins to stir, and a new hope travels between the stars. Deep in the void, where solar winds whisper against the hull of a lone vessel, a report is being made. The ship belongs to an evaluator, a survivor, a unipan of large muscular build and orange skin with a single prominent eye that has seen the rise and fall of 1,000 worlds. His name is Alan, and he is speaking, not with his mouth, but with his mind, his thoughts beamed across light years to a council of the coalition of planets. His mental voice is calm, strategic, but underneath there is an urgency that could boil oceans. The intel was correct, Alan projects. Earth possesses a warrior of Viltrumite-level power. But there is a complication, a severe one. He pauses, letting the weight of his words settle in the minds of the council members light years away. He is not an independent hero. He is an asset, a weapon, wholly controlled by a terrestrial organization called the Global Defense Agency, and its director, a man named Cecil Stedman. Images flash through the telepathic link. A boy in a yellow and blue suit, moving with brutal, devastating efficiency. A city street, left in ruins. The cold, scarred face of Cecil Stedman, watching from the shadows. This Invincible is their sword, Alan continues. and they are pointing him at any threat they see fit. He is not a potential ally. He is a controlled deterrent, a dog on a very short leash. If we approach him, we approach Stedman, and that is a game we cannot win on his terms. A wave of concern washes back from the council. Then Earth is a lost cause? No, Alan's thought is sharp, decisive. The GDA is not the only power on Earth. There are others, heroes who operate outside of Stedman's control. The ones who tried to intervene when the GDA's weapon was unleashed on the Viltrumite scout. They are fractured, leaderless, but they have power, and they have conviction. They are our hope. I am altering my mission. I will make contact not with Earth's weapon, but with its heart. The thin air of the Himalayas whips around two figures standing on a desolate peak. One is a man who has seen empires turn to dust, tall with jet-black hair and steel-blue eyes that hold the weight of centuries. He is the immortal. Beside him, a young woman glows with a soft pink energy, her red hair a splash of fire against the snow and rock. Atom Eve. They are waiting. A ship descends from the clouds, silent as a ghost. It doesn't roar, it simply arrives. A ramp lowers, and out walks Alan the alien. He raises a hand, palm open, a universal sign of peace. The immortal's arms are crossed, worn smooth by time. You're a long way from home. My home is gone, Alan says, his single eye meeting the immortal's gaze without fear. The Viltrumites saw to that. The same people who sent Omni-Man to your world. The same blood that flows through the veins of the GDA's champion, Invincible. Atom Eve takes a step forward, the pink energy around her hands solidifying slightly. We know who he is. What do you want? To offer you a choice, Alan says, his tone shifting from diplomacy to raw truth. Your world is a focal point in a war you don't even know you're fighting. The Viltri Empire is a plague that has consumed galaxies. My people, the coalition of planets, have been fighting them for generations. We are losing. Omni-Man wasn't a scout. He was the first wave. His son, he is the GDA's answer, a Viltrumite to fight Viltrumites. But what happens when that weapon is turned on you? When his master decides you are the threat? Who holds the leash then? He lets the question hang in the freezing air. The coalition doesn't want to control Earth. We want to empower it. We want to give you the resources, the intelligence, the support to stand as a free planet. To create a line of defense that doesn't answer to one man in a bunker. An alliance. A real one. The immortal looks at Eve. He has fought beside gods and monsters, led armies, and died more times than he can count. He recognizes a precipice when he sees one. This alien isn't just offering help. He's offering a rebellion. Miles below, in the sterile, silent darkness of the Pentagon's deepest level, two figures watch the meeting on a screen the size of a wall. The satellite feed is crystal clear. Cecil Stedman leans back in his chair, a faint, unimpressed smile playing on his lips. Beside him stands Mark Grayson, his GDA uniform a stark contrast to the casual suit Cecil wears. A Unipan, Cecil mutters, more to himself than to Mark. Haven't seen one of them in this sector for years. Bold. He takes a sip of his coffee. He's pitching them an alliance, trying to build his own little super team to act as a check against us. Mark says nothing. His eyes are fixed on the screen. Not on the towering immortal or the one-eyed alien. His focus is entirely on the girl glowing with pink light. Atom Eve. He's seen her file. Samantha Eve Wilkins. Powers categorized as transmutation, energy manipulation. Classified as a rogue element. Independent. Dangerous. But on the screen he doesn't see a rogue element. He sees conviction. He sees a power that isn't ordered or directed, but simply is. It flows from her, effortless and bright. He is a guided missile, a precision instrument of force, honed for 11 years by the best training and technology the world has to offer. She is wild, uncontained. Don't worry about them, Mark, Cecil says, noticing his focus. They're irrelevant, a ghost from a bygone era, and a girl who can make flowers grow. When the Viltrumites show up for round 2, who do you think the world is going to look to? The committee or the cannon? Cecil gestures to Mark. Mark doesn't look away from the screen. He watches Eve as she listens to Alan. her expression intense, her power a quiet storm held in check. He feels a strange curiosity, a pull towards something he doesn't understand, a question he didn't even know he had. Back on the mountain, the wind howls. The immortal has heard enough. He has seen the GDA's methods. He has seen the brutal calculus they employ. He has seen their weapon in action. Alan is right. Power cannot go unchecked, not even their own. He uncrosses his arms and extends a hand to the alien. The Guardians of the Globe were founded to protect this world from all threats, the immortal declares, his voice booming with the authority of ages. That includes the ones who claim to be its saviors. Alan takes the offered hand. The grip is firm, an agreement sealed not in a boardroom, but in the moment that will define history. But, on the roof of the world, you want an ally on Earth who doesn't answer to a black site, the immortal says, a fire returning to his ancient eyes. Congratulations, you just found one. And just like that, the game has changed. The pieces are reset. On one side of the board, the Global Defense Agency and its unstoppable living weapon, and on the other, a new alliance is forged, a coalition of worlds and heroes ready to fight for freedom. A shadow war has just begun, and caught in the middle is a world that has no idea it's become the ultimate prize.
In the cold, silent dark between stars, a ghost sits on a throne of dead rock. This is what's left of Nolan Grayson. Not Omni-Man, not the Viltrumite conqueror, just a man hollowed out by his own hands. The scars crisscrossing his chest and face, souvenirs from his son's rage, are nothing. They are pale imitations of the wound inside him, the one that bleeds guilt, the one that screams a name he can never say again. Debbie. He came here to die, to let the vacuum of space and the slow decay of time erase him. An end he chose, an end he deserved. But Viltrum does not grant men like him the dignity of choice. A tear in reality, a flash of impossible speed, a ship brutal and grey hangs in the void above him. Its design is unmistakable, a predator, a cage. He doesn't even flinch. He's been waiting. A hatch hisses open. Figures descend, clad in the stark white and grey of the Empire. They land without a sound, surrounding him. Their leader steps forward, posture rigid with authority. The order is given, cold and final. Surrender. And Nolan, he does. He rises slowly, every movement an act of immense weariness. He offers his hands. There is no fight, no defiance. The legendary strength, the power that could shatter worlds, is dormant. Because in his mind, this isn't a capture, this is justice. The cold metal of Viltrumite shackles clicks around his wrists. It feels like an absolution. A fitting end to a story that should have ended a decade ago, in a quiet suburban home with the life he destroyed. Aboard the prison ship, the air is stale with recycled oxygen and indifference. Nolan is chained to a bulkhead, a relic on display. His eyes are closed, but he hears everything. Two guards, their voices dripping with the casual cruelty of bored soldiers, are talking. They talk about a report from a scout named Anissa, a mission to the backwater planet Nolan once called home. They talk about a hybrid, a weapon, an asset that not only fought a pure-blooded Viltrumite to a standstill, but beat her, broke her, sent her running back to the Empire with a warning. Nolan's jaw tightens. He knows. He knows the hybrid's name. He knows the cold fury in his eyes. He put it there. He felt that power firsthand when it shattered his bones and his pride. This is old news, the echo of his greatest failure. But then, one of the guards laughs, a dry, humorless sound. He says Anissa's report did more than just raise alarms. It changed the entire equation. Earth wasn't just a failed outpost anymore. It was a threat, a rogue state, a weapons factory capable of producing a creature that could challenge the Empire. And you know what the Empire does with threats? The second guard speaks, his voice low, almost a whisper. High Command has authorized it, a full punitive fleet. They're not going to conquer it.
They're going to sterilize it, turn the whole planet to glass. The words hit Nolan harder than any punch Mark ever threw. Sterilize it. He opens his eyes. The cold, dead calm shatters. A fire, banked for years under a mountain of grief, roars back to life. He thought leaving was a mercy. He thought his self-exile, his banishment by his own son, would protect the boy. That it would sever the connection, keep Viltrum's gaze away from Earth. He was wrong. So wrong. His departure didn't save Mark. It painted a target on his back. A target the size of a planet. He didn't save his son. He left him alone to face an apocalypse that Nolan himself had caused. The guilt is still there, but now it has a purpose. The shackles around his wrists suddenly feel fragile. The guards, sensing the shift in the air, turn toward his cell. The weariness in Nolan's posture is gone, replaced by something terrible. One of the guards reaches for his sidearm. A fatal mistake. The sound isn't metal bending. It's an explosion. Nolan doesn't break his restraints. He obliterates them. Shrapnel tears through the air. He moves, a blur of motion, faster than they can process. The first guard is a red smear against the wall before the second can even scream. Nolan doesn't pause. He doesn't hesitate. This isn't a fight for survival. This is a race against time. The cell door isn't an obstacle. It's a suggestion. He punches straight through the reinforced alloy, his fist tearing a hole in the ship's interior. Alarms blare. Red lights flash. The entire ship lurches as he carves a path forward. He tears through bulkheads like they're paper. He moves with the brutal efficiency of a man with nothing left to lose and only one thing left to do. He is not going back to be a father. That right was forfeited in a storm of blood and rage. Mark made his choice. A bullet to the head if he ever returned. So be it. He is not going back to reclaim his son. He is going back to warn him, to warn Cecil, to give them a chance, however small. He crashes onto the bridge. The flight crew turns, their faces masks of terror. Nolan ignores them. His eyes lock onto the star charts displayed on the main view screen. He finds the coordinates. He finds the path. He is going back to stand between his son and the Viltrumite Empire. He is going back to die holding the line. Far away in the sterile quiet of the Global Defense Agency's deepest command bunker, a single technician watches a screen. He's been watching it for 12 hours straight. It's a deep space sensor array, designed to detect the unique energy signature of a Viltrumite vessel. For over a decade, it has been silent, until now. A single insistent ping echoes in the silence. The technician leans forward. His blood runs cold. On the screen, a red icon appears at the edge of the solar system. It's moving. Fast. An intercept course with Earth. And below it, a calculation flickers to life. ETA. 3 days. 3 days. For 3 days, the Global Defense Agency has held its breath. Deep beneath the Pentagon, in the silent, sterile heart of Earth's defense, every screen shows the same thing. An empty patch of space. A silent void where a ghost is expected. Cecil Stedman stands before the primary monitor wall, the cold blue light reflecting off the scar on his jaw. He hasn't slept. Not really. He exists on coffee, adrenaline, and a decade of single-minded preparation. The entire facility is a weapon aimed at the sky. Every satellite, every energy cannon, every dirty little trick in Cecil's playbook is pointed outward, waiting for the telltale energy signature of a Viltrumite arrival. Waiting for Nolan. In his quarters, a reinforced bunker that has been his home for 11 years, Mark Grayson feels it too. A low hum in the air, a tension that feels like the moment before a lightning strike. He clenches his fists, the knuckles white. Cecil's words echo in his mind. He's coming. Everything we've done, it's all for this day. You are ready. And while the world holds its breath, watching the front door, someone is already inside. He doesn't use doors. He doesn't trip alarms. He simply arrives. In a sub-level designated for hazardous containment, place where the GDA keeps its worst mistakes locked away. The air rips open. A shimmering, fractured tear in reality appears for less than a second. Angstrom Levy steps through. His grotesquely enlarged brain pulses with quiet, meticulous thought. He looks at the rows of reinforced cells, at the things sleeping inside, and he smiles, a thin, cruel crack in his face. He doesn't need to fight them. He just needs to open the doors. A portal opens inside the cell of a failed bioweapon, a writhing mass of tentacles and teeth. The creature, startled, lashes out and shatters its own containment unit from the inside. Alarms finally scream to life. Red lights flash. But it's too late. Angstrom is already gone, another portal blinking him into existence in the primary server corridor. He places a small device on the central conduit. It hums, and every internal security protocol in the most secure building on Earth begins to cannibalize itself. Doors slam shut, trapping agents. Fire suppression systems fill hallways with suffocating foam. Automated turrets, designed to repel invaders, swivel and open fire on GDA personnel. The fortress is turning on itself. Cecil's perfect weapon is committing suicide. Up in his bunker, the world explodes. The lights flicker and die, replaced by the emergency red. A voice, cold and robotic, echoes from the walls. Asset 01, containment protocol initiated. Stand down. The walls of Mark's room slide away, revealing laser grids and sonic cannons. Defenses he's trained against his entire life. But they've never been set to kill. Mark doesn't hesitate. He doesn't think.
He tears through the first laser grid. The beams sear his suit, but his skin holds.
He smashes through a phalanx of combat androids, ripping them apart like tin cans. He is a force of nature, a living missile aimed at one target, Cecil. He crashes through a wall into a main concourse. It's chaos. Agents are pinned down by their own turrets. In the middle of it all, a flash of pink. Atom Eve is there, a shimmering energy shield protecting a group of terrified technicians. She's creating ramps for them to escape, reinforcing a collapsing ceiling. She's saving lives. Mark sees her for a fraction of a second. Her focus is on the people, the collateral damage. His focus is on the mission. Get to Cecil. He doesn't stop. He doesn't divert. He simply plows forward, a shockwave of destruction in his wake. He is a weapon, and weapons don't worry about acceptable losses. But the image of her, a shield against the storm he is creating, sticks in his mind. A splinter of an idea he can't yet comprehend. He blasts through the final reinforced door to the command center, and freezes.
The room is a wreck. Consoles spark and hiss. The main view screen is cracked, showing 1,000 fractured images of an empty sky. And on the floor, leaning against the command chair, is Cecil Stedman. There's a dark stain spreading across his pristine white shirt. His face is pale, his breathing ragged. He's been shot. And standing over him, calm amidst the carnage, is Angstrom Levy. You built a monster to protect your world, Angstrom says, his voice a low, intellectual rasp. His massive brain seems to throb in the dying light. But you never considered the monsters already inside it. For the first time in a decade, Mark Grayson sees the man who raised him as vulnerable. Not the unshakable director of the GDA. Not the master strategist. Just Cecil. His father. Hurt. On the ground. And something inside him breaks. The cold, controlled rage he's honed for years evaporates, replaced by a volcanic, primal fury. It's the same feeling he had when he was 6 years old, standing in his mother's blood. Pure, undiluted protectiveness. He doesn't scream a name. He doesn't make a threat. He lets out a roar, a sound that isn't human. It's the sound of a Viltrumite unleashed. Angstrom turns, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He took everything from me, he starts to say. Now I take. He never finishes. Mark crosses the room in less than a heartbeat. This isn't a punch. It's an impact. An extinction-level event in the form of a tackle. He drives his shoulder into Angstrom's chest with all the power, all the grief,
all the rage of a boy who has lost two parents. The impact doesn't just shatter the far wall of the command center. As Mark makes contact, Angstrom smiles. A shimmering portal, a vortex of impossible colors, rips open directly behind him. They don't just crash through the wall, they crash through reality. A blinding flash of light, a deafening crack of displaced air. And then, silence. They're gone. Cecil Stedman, bleeding on the floor of his ruined kingdom, stares at the gaping hole in the world where his son, his weapon, his last hope, just vanished. There is no sound. Only the feeling of being torn apart and put back together 1,000 times a second. One moment, Mark Grayson is tackling Astron Levy through the wall of the GDA command center. The next, he is everywhere and nowhere. Colors that have no names scream past him. Physics becomes a suggestion, then a lie. He and Levy are locked together, a two-man hurricane tumbling through the raw guts of reality. They crash, not onto a floor, but into a world. A sky of bruised purple hangs over a jungle of screaming, flesh-eating flora. The very air is thick, wet, and hungry. Angstrom shoves Mark off, scrambling back. "You have no idea what you've done," he shrieks, his voice thin against the alien howl of the jungle. Mark gets to his feet. GDA training protocol flashes in his mind. Assess, adapt, eliminate. The ground beneath him is soft, pulsing, like the floor of a lung. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't analyze. He attacks. He moves like a blur of focused rage, a living missile honed by a decade of simulated hells. Angstrom rips open a portal, a shimmering tear in the world, and dives through. Mark is right behind him. They land in a desert of black glass under a dying crimson sun. Before Angstrom can even get his bearings, Mark is on him. The ground shatters under the force of the first punch. It's not a fight. It's an execution. Angstrom screams, tearing another hole in space, a desperate escape. They fall into a city made of bone, inhabited by shadows that flit at the edge of vision. Angstrom tries to use the dimension itself as a weapon, opening a portal right in front of Mark's charging fist. Mark's arm disappears into the void and reappears 100 feet above, slamming down into the street. But the GDA trained him for disorientation. He yanks his arm back, using the momentum to spin, his other fist catching Angstrom square in the jaw. The sound is like a tree splitting in a thunderstorm. Faster, stronger, more ruthless. That's the difference. This is not the boy who chose the name Invincible in a moment of hopeful optimism. This is Asset 01, a scalpel forged to cut the heart out of any threat to the planet. And Angstrom Levy? He just threatened the man who holds the leash. Another portal, a world of endless, freezing ocean. Angstrom gasps, the cold shocking his system. Mark doesn't feel it. He grabs Angstrom by his mutated head and holds him under the crushing black water. Bubbles stream from Angstrom's mouth. Portals flicker and die around them as his concentration breaks. Mark holds him there. 5 seconds. 10. He's not just fighting the man. He's breaking his will. He's showing him that no reality, no dimension, no corner of the multiverse can hide him. He yanks him out of the water, gasping, and throws him through another random portal. They land on a world of silence, a barren grey rock floating in a starless void. Nothing ever will. The dust doesn't even move. Angstrom Levy collapses, a broken heap of flesh and ambition. He's spitting blood, his body a roadmap of bruises that are already turning a deep, horrific black. He looks up at Mark, his eyes wide with terror. He had seen 100 evil Invincibles, 1,000 tyrants wearing that suit, but he had never seen this. This cold, efficient, devastating rage. "Please," Angstrom whispers, the sound swallowed by the absolute silence. Mark stands over him. His suit is torn, his knuckles are bleeding, but his breathing is steady. His eyes are like chips of ice. He remembers Cecil, bleeding on the floor, the man who took him in, the man who gave him a purpose when his world ended. And all that rage, all that desperation from the fight, it cools, it hardens into something else. Something colder. He reaches down, not to help, but to grab the front of Angstrom's shirt. He lifts him up, their faces inches apart.
"You wanted to hurt me," Mark says, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "You wanted to show me pain." He looks around at the dead world, at the endless, empty nothing. "This is my pain. This is the world my father left me in. Now, it's yours."
He drops Angstrom to the ground. He turns his back. Levy, desperate, tries to summon one last portal, his fingers twitching, trying to tear open reality. But he's too broken, too tired. Nothing happens. Mark focuses. He remembers the specific vibrational frequency of his home dimension. A GDA mental exercise. He channels all his energy, all his will, into a single point in front of him. Reality groans. It resists. Then with a sound like tearing silk, a shimmering blue tear appears. Home. He steps through without a second look back, leaving Angstrom Levy to the silence. The transition is violent. He stumbles out of the portal and falls to his knees, not on a dead world, but in the heart of his own ruined home. The GDA command center is a war zone. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of burnt wiring. Emergency lights strobe across the debris, casting long, dancing shadows. Agents are shouting. Medics are rushing past. Mark's head snaps up, searching. His eyes scan the chaos until they find him. Cecil. He's on a stretcher, surrounded by a medical team. His face is pale, covered in a sheen of sweat. An oxygen mask is strapped to his head. His eyes are closed. A medic is barking orders, applying a high-tech coagulant to a deep wound in his side. They're stabilizing him. For now. Mark gets to his feet, walking slowly towards the scene. It feels like wading through water. The agents, the soldiers, they all stop what they're doing. They part for him. Their weapon. Their champion. But he doesn't see them. He only sees Cecil. Unconscious. Vulnerable. For the first time since he was 6 years old, Mark Grayson is alone. There are no orders, no mission parameters crackling in his ear. The voice that has guided his every move for 11 years is silent. The man who raised him, who turned a traumatized boy into a planetary defense system, is down. And in that moment, Mark feels the weight of it all. The fight, the dimensions, the rage, it all comes crashing down, leaving him feeling hollow, empty. Then a new sound cuts through the noise. It's not the frantic damage control alarm, it's a different siren, a deeper, more resonant tone that makes the blood run cold. A sound Mark has only ever heard in simulations. Red lights flash across the main view screen, which is miraculously still intact. Text scrolls across it in block letters. Viltrumite signature detected. Orbital entry. Imminent. A technician, his face white as a sheet, looks up from his console. "Sir, Asset 01, it's him." Mark slowly turns from Cecil's stretcher and looks up at the screen. A single powerful biosignature, blazing a trail through the upper atmosphere, faster than anything they've ever tracked. He doesn't need the computer to tell him who it is. He can feel it. A cold dread that has lived in the back of his mind since childhood. A memory of blood on a white kitchen floor. He walks towards the gaping hole in the ceiling of the command center, the one he and Angstrom created just minutes ago. He steps over rubble and shattered steel, his eyes fixed on the sky. Through the smoke and the dust, he sees it, a streak of fire descending from the heavens. It's not a target, it's not a hostile. It's the reason he exists. The monster in his nightmares made real. Nolan Grayson has come home. The cold, dead silence of space. Two figures hang in the void, suspended over the blue marble of Earth. A father and a son. But this isn't a reunion. Mark Grayson, codenamed S.H.I.E.L.D., the Global Defense Agency's ultimate weapon, stares at the man who left him. The man who broke his world. His fists are clenched, every muscle coiled, a living missile system waiting for a launch command that for the first time in his life he has to give himself. Nolan Grayson, Omni-Man, looks at his son, not with pride, not with anger, but with a deep, bottomless well of regret. He opens his mouth to speak, to warn him, to try and bridge the chasm of a lost decade. Touching. The voice crackles through the vacuum, a sound that shouldn't be there. It's thin, it's sharp, it's full of a pain that has curdled into pure, unadulterated hate. They turn. A man hangs in space with them. His head is a grotesque mass of exposed brain tissue and scar tissue, a nightmare of reconstructive surgery. Angstrom Levy, he sneers, a universe of agony in his eyes. A family reunion, how sweet, Levy hisses, his form flickering. You, Nolan, you abandoned your post. You abandoned your son. You left a broken world behind you. His gaze snaps to Mark. And you let them turn you into a dog on a leash, a good little soldier for your masters at the GDA. You think you're a hero? You're just a boot on the throat of anyone who disagrees with them. Mark doesn't flinch. He's heard it all before. GDA protocol is clear. Engage, neutralize. But there's no GDA here. Just him, his father, and this anomaly. I was going to save you, Angstrom whispers, a tremor in his voice. I was going to show you all the worlds where you became a monster, to stop it from happening here. But I see now, I was wrong. It's too late for you. This world doesn't need to be saved from what you might become. It needs to be saved from what you are. And then, the world breaks. Behind Angstrom Levy, reality tears open. Not one rip, not two. Dozens, shimmering, jagged wounds in the fabric of space, each one a window into another darker Earth. And from every single one, a figure emerges. They all wear the same face, Mark's face. One has a thick Viltrumite mustache. Another wears a dark hooded costume. A third has a savage, blood-splattered grin, his suit torn and stained. Cop Slayer Invincible, Stripe Vincible, Cape Vincible, an army of broken reflections, an infinite legion of failure. Angstrom Levy's smile is one of terrible victory. You wanted to see what you could become, Mark? He screams, his voice echoing across dimensions. Here it is, a multiverse of your mistakes. Let's see your Earth survive this. The portals flare, and across the globe, in London, in Tokyo, in Cairo, in New York, hell arrives. The sky over New York City is filled with monsters that look like heroes. The Guardians of the Globe are the first to respond. The immortal, leader of the Guardians, slams into a version of Mark with a cruel-looking mohawk. The impact shakes buildings for a mile. But the evil Invincible just grunts, grabs the immortal by the head, and smashes him through 3 skyscrapers without slowing down. This isn't a fight. This is a slaughter. War Woman's mace, a weapon that can level tanks, connects with a variant's jaw. The sound is a deafening crack. The variant just spits out a tooth, smiles, and tears the mace from her hands. He snaps it over his knee. War Woman's eyes go wide. She has never known fear like this. He grabs her by her braids. It's over in a second. The heroes of Earth are falling. They're fighting an enemy with all of their greatest champion's strengths, and none of his restraint. These aren't men. They're forces of nature. They are rage given flight, and they are everywhere. Then 2 streaks of light cut through the chaos. Mark and Nolan. They hit the ground like twin meteorites, shattering the pavement. Mark doesn't hesitate. He launches himself at the nearest variant, the one with the mustache. His GDA training kicks in. Every move is precise, efficient, brutal. He strikes at joints, at the neck, at the eyes. He fights like a scalpel. A variant screams toward them, fists outstretched. You want to survive this? Nolan says, his voice cold as the grave. Then you need to learn how to kill your own kind. Watch me. Nolan doesn't move to block the incoming punch. He shifts his weight, just slightly. At the last possible microsecond, he ducks under the attack, grabs the variant's outstretched arm, and pivots. He uses the monster's own momentum against him. He twists. There is a sickening sound of bone and sinew tearing, but he doesn't stop there. While the variant is screaming, disoriented, Nolan drives his other hand straight forward. Not a punch. His fingers are rigid, like a spear. He aims for a spot just below the ear. The inner ear, Nolan grunts, his voice a harsh lesson in the middle of a war zone. It's how we fly. It's our only true weak point. Scramble it, and they are grounded, helpless. The variant's eyes roll back in his head. He stops flying. He just drops. He hits the ground, twitching, a multi-ton sack of meat with a scrambled nervous system. Another variant is already on them. This one is for Mark. Your turn, son, Nolan says, a grim finality in his tone. Mark looks at the face coming at him, his own face, twisted with hate. He remembers Nolan's words. He remembers the training. Not Cecil's training, the other training, the flashes of instinct buried deep in his blood. He dodges, he grabs the arm, he pivots. It feels natural, frighteningly so. He drives his hand forward. He doesn't think, he just acts. The impact is soft, horribly soft. His fingers plunge into flesh and bone. The variant goes limp, his flight sputtering out. He falls from the sky, silent and still. Mark stares at his hand, covered in the blood of a man who looks just like him. He feels nothing, no remorse, no triumph, just the cold, quiet satisfaction of a weapon hitting its target. He looks at Nolan. A silent understanding passes between them. The grudge isn't gone, the pain isn't forgotten, but on this battlefield, they are no longer father and son. They are soldiers. Miles below the earth, in the sterile white of a GDA medbay, Cecil Stedman watches the world end on a dozen screens. Bandages cover half his face, monitors beep a steady rhythm of his own failing body. He is a man defined by control, and for the first time in decades, he has none. Donald Ferguson stands beside him, his face a grim, unchanging mask. Reports from London, Donald says, his tone flat. Monster Girl is not in contact. The Immortal is holding, but he's taking heavy damage. We've lost contact with the European teams. Every report is a nail in the coffin. Cecil's hand clenches into a fist. His assets, his strategies, his life's work, all of it turning to ash. He built a wall around the world, and now a tidal wave of monsters, wearing his greatest failure's face, is washing it all away. He leans forward, wincing in pain. Cecil slams his fist against the railing of his bed. Rage, impotence. He raised the boy to be the ultimate failsafe, the final answer, and now in the final hour, he's gone. But then a news feed flickers. A reporter hunkered behind a burning bus, her voice shaking with terror and something else. Awe. Wait, she says, the camera whipping towards the sky. Wait a minute. There's someone new. I don't recognize the costume. Blue and yellow. Dear God, he's moving so fast. The camera zooms in, a blur of color tearing through a pack of evil Invincibles. It's not the wild, brawling style of the others. It's brutally efficient. A shattered jaw here, a dislocated shoulder there. Every movement is precise, calculated, disabling. He's coordinating them. The reporter shouts over the roar of battle. The other heroes, they're rallying to him. Cecil stares at the screen, at the blue and yellow figure leading the charge. That isn't asset shield. That isn't a weapon following orders. That is a hero. That is his son. A flicker of something he hasn't allowed himself to feel in over a decade sparks in his chest. It's not strategic satisfaction. It's not the pride of a commander watching his plan succeed. It's warmer. It's fiercer. It's the terrifying, breathtaking pride of a father. His control is gone, and all that's left is faith. The sky over New York is a war zone, but now it's a war zone with a general. Nolan, right flank, draw their fire. Immortal, you're with me. Center punch. Eve, containment. Don't let a single piece of debris hit the street. The voice belongs to the new figure in blue and yellow, and it cuts through the chaos with absolute authority. This is Invincible, and he is in command. He moves like a thunderbolt. He smashes into a variant, the one with the wild mane of hair, not with a haymaker, but with a targeted strike to the temple, stunning him. He spins, deflecting a blow from another, using the variant's own momentum to send him crashing into a third. Faster, stronger, smarter. Nolan, fighting with a grim fury, hears the orders. For a split second, the Viltrumite warlord in him bristles. But then he sees it. He sees the strategy, the cold, hard calculus of the GDA married to the raw power of Viltrum. He sees his son, not as the boy he left behind, but as the warrior he has become. You heard him, Nolan roars to the other heroes, smashing a variant through the side of a building. Follow his lead. That one sentence changes everything. It's an abdication, a coronation. Omni-Man, the conqueror who brought Earth to its knees, is now a soldier taking orders from his son. The tide turns. It's not just a brawl anymore, it's an extermination. Atom Eve is everywhere at once. A skyscraper begins to crumble, threatening to crush thousands. Pink energy erupts from the ground. A massive shield, shimmering and translucent, catches the falling tons of steel and concrete. Her brow is beaded with sweat, the light from her hands flickering with the strain, but the construct holds. She sees two variants bearing down on a trapped bus. She doesn't attack them. She transmutes the asphalt around them, trapping their feet in instantly hardened rock. She is controlling the battlefield, rewriting the laws of physics on the fly to support Mark's assault. The Immortal, battered but unyielding, fights with renewed purpose. He's not just surviving anymore. He's winning. He follows Invincible's lead without question, the two of them moving like a single devastating weapon, systematically dismantling the enemy ranks. One by one, the evil marks fall. The final variant is neutralized. The immediate threat is over. But the architect of it all is still out there. Invincible doesn't pause. He doesn't celebrate. He turns his eyes to the heavens, towards the orbital platform where he knows Angstrom Levy is watching. And then he's gone. A sonic boom is the only evidence he was ever there. He arrives in a silent, white, infinite space, a nexus between realities, and floating in the center is Angstrom Levy, his massive, scarred brain pulsing with sickly light. Dozens of shimmering portals hang in the void around him, each one a window into another world. You, Angstrom snarls, his voice a chorus of a million vengeful echoes. You are an anchor of tyranny in every reality, GDA dog, a singularity of control. I will unmake you. The assault begins. A portal opens directly in front of Mark. He dodges left. The portal snaps shut, its edge shearing through the space where his neck was an instant before. Another opens beneath his feet, revealing a dimension of pure lava. He flares his powers, rocketing upwards. Angstrom is spamming them now. Portals open and close like a mad god's blinking eyes, trying to slice him to pieces, trying to cast him into 1,000 different hells. But Mark is calm. His heart rate is steady. This isn't a fight. This is a problem set. He's been trained for this. He evades, he analyzes, he sees the pattern. Angstrom needs line of sight, and the rapid succession of portals, it's costing him. A slight delay, a millisecond tremor in his hands. That's the opening. Mark dives toward the wreckage of the orbital platform, tearing a massive chunk of steel from its hull. Angstrom laughs. You think you can throw that at me? I control space itself. A portal opens to swallow the projectile, but Mark doesn't throw it at Angstrom. He throws it into a different portal, one off to the side, aimed at nothing. The chunk of steel vanishes. Angstrom hesitates, confused. And in that split second of confusion, the steel erupts from another portal directly behind his head. The impact is devastating. Angstrom screams, stunned, his concentration broken. And Mark is on him. He doesn't throw a punch. He doesn't break his neck. He does something colder, more permanent. He grabs the dazed Angstrom and shoves him forward. Two portals shimmer in front of them. As Mark pushes him through, he slams his hands on the edges of both portals, forcing them to close. Not all the way. They slam shut like a vice, trapping Angstrom Levy precisely in the middle. Half his body in one reality, half in another. The portals struggle against each other, the space between them tearing, whining, screaming. Angstrom is trapped in the gutter of the multiverse, a prisoner in the non-space between worlds. The war is over, not with a bang of rage, but with the cold, silent click of a cage door swinging shut. The last portal seals itself. Silence returns. Invincible floats alone amidst the wreckage, the savior of a world he was built to control. The symbol on his chest is no longer his father's, and it's no longer Cecil's. For the first time, it's his. And a question hangs in the silent void, heavier than any planet. A world that needed a weapon just got a hero. And what on earth are they going to do with him now? The war is over. The sky, once choked with the smoke of 100 burning cities, is clear again. 1 week. That's all it's been. 7 days since the last evil Mark was punched back through a tear in reality. 7 days for a shattered world to take its first shuddering breath. For heroes to count their dead. For villains to lick their wounds. And for the boy who saved them all to figure out what comes next. Because the world that needed a weapon just got a hero. And now it's time to settle his accounts. The Global Defense Agency headquarters is a beehive of frantic reconstruction. The air smells of ozone and fresh paint. Agents in black suits move with grim purpose, their faces etched with the memory of the invasion. This is the heart of Earth's power, and Mark walks through it, not as an asset, but as a visitor. He doesn't need clearance anymore. The doors slide open before him. The guards nod, their eyes filled with a mixture of awe and fear. He finds Cecil Stedman in his office, rebuilt, larger, more screens, more security. The man himself sits behind a vast metal desk, looking older than he did a week ago. The signature scar on his jaw seems deeper. He's in a wheelchair, a blanket over his legs, but his eyes are as sharp as ever. Mark steps into the room, falling into old habits. He stands at attention, hands behind his back, waiting for the debrief, waiting for his orders. He is a weapon, and he is waiting for his handler to aim him. Cecil watches him, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, the only sound is the quiet hum of the servers that run the world. Mark braces himself for the lecture, for the analysis of his performance, for the reprimand for abandoning his post, for creating a new identity without authorization. Instead, Cecil speaks, and his voice is different. The hard, pragmatic edge is gone, replaced by something else, something warm. Invincible. The name sounds strange coming from him. Cecil has only ever called him Mark in private, Asset 01 in official capacity. Never this. Never the name Mark chose for himself. You did good work out there, Cecil says, gesturing to a chair. An invitation, not a command. Mark hesitates, then sits. It feels wrong. An asset doesn't sit in the director's office. I did my duty, Mark replies, the words automatic, programmed. No, Cecil corrects him gently. You did more than that. Your duty was to follow my orders. Your duty was to be a scalpel, precise, controlled. Instead, you became a symbol. You gave people something to fight for, something I never could. Cecil wheels himself around the desk, stopping beside Mark. He looks out the reinforced window at the Washington Monument, still scarred from the battle. For 11 years, I raised you for one purpose, to be Earth's shield against your father, to be the weapon we would need when the Viltrumites finally came. I took a grieving boy, and I forged him into the single most powerful deterrent in human history. He looks back at Mark, and for the first time, Mark sees not a director, but a father. A tired, regretful father. I was wrong, Cecil says, the admission costing him everything. I tried to build a weapon, but I forgot I was raising a man. A good man. He reaches into his suit jacket and pulls out a small, sleek datapad. He slides it onto the arm of Mark's chair. On the screen is a single document. GDA Asset Contract 01B. His entire life, codified in legal jargon. And across the front, in bold red letters, is a single word. Terminated. You're free, Mark, Cecil says, his voice thick with emotion. The GDA no longer has any claim on you. You're not our asset. You're not our weapon. He places a hand on Mark's shoulder. It's a gesture he's never made before. You're Earth's hero. Go be him. Mark looks from the datapad to Cecil's face. He sees the pride there, the respect, the love. The chains he never even realized were wrapped around his soul. They shatter. He stands up, not as Asset 01, but as Mark Grayson. He is free, and for the first time, the future feels limitless. He nods at the man who raised him, a silent thank you that says more than words ever could. He is no longer Cecil's weapon, but he will always be his son. But freedom is a fragile thing, and peace is an illusion. While a son and a father find their way back to each other on Earth, something else is happening in the cold, silent dark, far beyond the orbit of Pluto, far beyond the reach of any human telescope. There is a flicker, a distortion in space-time, a wound opening in the fabric of the void. And from that wound, they emerge, a Viltrumite warship. On the bridge of the ship, the view screen shows Earth in stark, unforgiving detail. The planet looks tired, wounded. From this distance, the atmospheric scarring from the invasion is visible. The faint energy signatures of cities still struggling to rebuild. Two figures stand before the screen. The first is a Viltrumite male with black hair and a classic pencil moustache. His uniform is immaculate, his posture rigid with military authority. One of his eyes is a piercing blue. The other is a cold, cybernetic red that glows with malevolent light. This is General Craig, a legend, a conqueror of 1,000 worlds. The figure beside him is larger, older, a towering giant of a Viltrumite, his grey hair balding, his face a roadmap of ancient scars. A thick moustache hangs over crooked teeth. One of his arms is not flesh, but a bronze cybernetic prosthetic. He radiates an aura of pure, undiluted brutality. His name is whispered in fear across galaxies, a name that means the end of all things. Conquest. Conquest grunts, a low rumble like an earthquake. His one good eye scans the battered planet. He sees the weakness, the exhaustion, the vulnerability. General Craig doesn't even look at him. His gaze is fixed on the prize. A smirk plays on his lips, a predator's smile. He's seen this 1,000 times before. A world softened up by infighting, ripe for the taking. He lets the silence hang for a moment, savoring it. Then he speaks, his voice calm, confident, and utterly terrifying.
In the cold, dead silence of space, they watched. The Viltrumite ship hung motionless against the black. On Earth, in the rebuilt heart of the Global Defense Agency, every screen glowed with targeting data. The GDA's orbital defense grid, a network of weaponized satellites, and the crown jewel, a planetary-class laser cannon, all had a lock. Every weapon humanity could point at the sky was aimed, armed, and waiting for the order. Cecil Stedman stood before the main monitor, his scarred face illuminated by the cold blue light. His people were the best in the world. His technology was a generation ahead of anyone else. And it was all a complete and utter joke. The Viltrumite ship didn't move. They didn't raise shields. They didn't launch fighters. They just floated there, a monument to arrogance, ignoring the hundreds of weapons aimed directly at their hearts. The tension in the control room was thick enough to choke on. A drop of sweat traced the line of Cecil's jaw. He knew this wasn't a standoff. This was a lecture. And class was about to begin. From the lead Viltrumite warship, a single, impossibly thin beam of white light extends. There is no sound, no grand explosion, no warning. It moves with the calm, deliberate precision of a surgeon's scalpel. It touches the first satellite. The satellite does not explode. It simply ceases to be, vanishes, wiped from existence. The beam dances, faster than thought. It pirouettes through the orbital field, tracing a line of absolute annihilation. The GDA's multi-billion-dollar laser cannon, a weapon designed to crack moons, is erased in a nanosecond. Satellites built to withstand solar flares are unwritten from the universe. One by one, every single human defense in orbit is silently, effortlessly, contemptuously vaporized. In the GDA command center, the screens all flash red, then die. A wave of static washes over the room. 1 second they were the planet's shield. The next, they were blind, deaf, helpless. The message was clear. This isn't a war. This is an execution. And the condemned has no say in the matter. And then, just as the panic begins to set in, every screen on the planet flickers back to life. Not with static, not with news reports, but with a face. A Viltrumite male, black hair, a classic pencil moustache.
One eye is a piercing blue. The other is a cold cybernetic red. He is General Craig, and his image is now on every television, every phone, every digital billboard from New York to Tokyo. He looks down on the world not with anger, but with a profound, universe-weary disappointment. His voice fills the sudden global silence. It's not a shout. It's a calm, measured statement of fact. People of Earth, he begins, the words translated instantly, seamlessly into every language. For many years, you have harbored a traitor, a deserter who abandoned his post, his people, and his emperor. It's Nolan, Omni-Man, not in his suit, but in a GDA medical bed, his face etched with a pain that has nothing to do with his physical wounds. He watches the screen, his own failure playing out for 8 billion people to see. Craig's voice continues, layered over the image. He was sent to prepare your world for absorption into the Viltrum Empire, a great honor. Instead, he went native. He forgot his blood. He forgot his duty. The image on the screen changes again. Now it shows Mark, Invincible, standing tall in his new suit. The symbol on his chest, a beacon of defiance, just days ago. Now, it looks like a target. And worse, Craig says, his voice laced with disgust. He sired an heir, a half-breed, a contamination of a pure bloodline, an abomination that we cannot and will not allow to exist. In GDA headquarters, Mark stands beside Cecil, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles are white. He can feel Cecil's gaze on him, can feel the weight of the entire room, the entire world pressing down. This isn't about Earth anymore. This has become about him. Now I need you to understand something. Craig doesn't care about this planet. He doesn't care about its people, its heroes, its history. They are insects on a rock he needs to clean. This isn't a negotiation. This is pest control. Craig's face returns to the screen, his expression unreadable. The Viltrum Empire is merciful, he lies. We offer you a choice, a simple path to your continued, insignificant existence. Deliver the traitors to us. Surrender Nolan and his son. Place them in our custody, and your world will be spared. We will leave you to your short, brutish lives and never return. The air leaves the planet. In cities across the globe, crowds stare at the screens in stunned silence. Sacrifice 2 to save billions? The math is simple, and it is monstrous. You have one of this planet's rotations to comply, Craig states, his cybernetic eye gleaming. 24 of your hours. He lets the ultimatum hang in the air, a poisoned dagger, over the heart of the world. If you refuse, or if you fail, a new image appears, a barren, cracked world, its atmosphere burned away, its oceans boiled into nothing, a dead rock drifting in space. We will sterilize your planet. We will scour every trace of life from its surface until nothing remains but dust and memory. The choice is yours. The broadcast ends, the screens go black, and the world holds its breath. 20 hours later, a makeshift stage has been erected in front of the ruins of a government building, a stark reminder of the Invincible war that so recently tore their world apart. The world's media is here. Every camera, every microphone, pointed at the figures standing before them. At the center is Invincible. His arms are crossed, his posture radiating a discipline and a stillness that belies his age. This is not the teenager who stumbled into his powers. This is S.H.I.E.L.D., the GDA's finest weapon, wearing a new name. Beside him stands Nolan. He is no longer in a medical uniform, but in a simple grey tunic. He looks weary, broken, but his shoulders are back. He stands not as Omni-Man, the conqueror, but as Nolan, the father, ready to face the consequences of his past. And behind them, a line of grim-faced heroes, the remaining guardians of the globe, led by the immortal. His expression is granite. He doesn't trust Nolan. He barely trusts the GDA-trained boy beside him, but he understands what this moment means. This is not about trust. This is about survival. This is the last line. The world is silent, waiting, pleading. What will they say? How can anyone answer an impossible choice? Mark steps forward. He walks to the podium, his boots making no sound. He looks out, not at the cameras, but through them, at the billions of people watching, terrified. He sees their faces in his mind. The lives he was raised, trained, built to protect. He takes a deep breath. His voice, amplified across the globe, is not the booming command of a god. It is the steady, unshakable voice of a soldier. The Viltrum Empire has given us an ultimatum, Mark begins, his words clear and sharp. They demand we sacrifice 2 of our own to save ourselves. They offer us life in exchange for our honor, our freedom. He pauses, letting the weight of the words settle. He glances back at Nolan, who gives him a single solemn nod. A lifetime of regret and a universe of hope passed between them in that one look. Mark turns back to the world. My father was sent here to conquer this planet. He was a soldier of Viltrum, but he is not that man anymore. He made a choice, to abandon his empire and to stand with us. His voice begins to rise, not with anger, but with a fierce, burning conviction. I was born on this world. I was raised by it. Everything I am, everything I care about, is here. Not in the stars, not in some distant empire, but here, with you. He plants his fists on his hips, the iconic pose, now a symbol of utter, absolute defiance. So here is our answer to General Craig and the Viltrum Empire. This is our home. This is our world. And as long as we can still fight, we will defend it. For a single glorious second, the world erupts. A tidal wave of cheers, of hope, of unified defiance against the coming darkness. It is a perfect moment. It does not last. High above, in the silent dark, the ultimatum has been rejected, and the sentence is passed. A shape detaches from the Viltrumite flagship. It streaks through the upper atmosphere, a man-made meteor wreathed in the fire of re-entry. It is not a missile. It is not a bomb. It is a Viltrumite. He is massive, towering, an old warrior with balding grey hair, a thick, brutal moustache, and a face like a roadmap of 1,000 wars. A deep diagonal scar runs across his features, a testament to a life of pure, unrelenting violence. And as he plummets toward the earth, a cruel, eager smile spreads across his face. He isn't falling randomly. He is a guided weapon, a living battering ram, aimed with perfect, lethal precision. His target is the boy who just dared to defy an empire. Judgment has arrived. And its name. The impact isn't an explosion. It's a declaration. A living meteor, wreathed in atmospheric fire, slams into the heart of downtown Chicago. The shockwave shatters 1,000,000 windows, a sonic boom that echoes like the crack of doom. But at the center of the crater, there is no fire, no wreckage, just a man, towering, ancient. A deep scar splits his face, one eye milky and blind. A bronze prosthetic gleams where his right arm should be. He rises to his full height, the Viltrumite uniform stark white against the grey dust. He is Conquest, and he has arrived. But Earth is not waiting to be conquered. The Guardians of the Globe are already there. The immortal, leader of Earth's mightiest, hovers before him, jaws set like granite. You are not welcome here, the immortal's voice booms, a challenge thrown into the face of a god. Conquest just smiles. A cruel, broken-toothed grin. I am not here to be welcomed. And the fight is on. It's not a fight, it's a disassembly. War Woman is first, her enchanted mace swinging with the force to level a mountain. Conquest doesn't even dodge. He catches the mace in his living hand, the metal groaning in protest. He twists. The sound of shattering steel echoes through the street as he rips the weapon from her grasp and drives his knuckles into her breastplate. The armor crumples like tin foil. She hits the ground, and she does not get up. Black Samson unleashes a torrent of raw electricity, a storm of lightning that arcs across the crater and engulfs the Viltrumite. For a moment, Conquest is lost in the blinding glare. Then he walks out of it, unscathed, unimpressed. A single, contemptuous backhand sends Samson flying, a ragdoll spinning through the air before crashing through the side of an office building 3 blocks away. Faster, stronger, unstoppable. Only the immortal remains. He doesn't hesitate. He becomes a blur of blue and white, a living projectile moving at speeds the human eye cannot track. He lands 100 punches in the space of a heartbeat. Thunderclaps of impact ripple through the air. He is pouring millennia of combat experience, of raw, untamed power into every single blow. And Conquest endures. He takes the hits. He lets the hero exhaust himself on an immovable object. Then, when the immortal pauses for a breath, for a fraction of a second, Conquest moves. He catches the next punch. His scarred, ancient fingers clamp around the immortal's fist like a vice. The hero's eyes go wide with shock, with disbelief. He tries to pull back, but he can't. He is held. "You are strong," Conquest grunts, his voice like grinding stone, "for a pet." And he pulls the immortal in, wraps a thick arm around his waist, lifts him high into the air, and brings him down, hard, over his knee. The crack is not loud, but it is the single most sickening sound in the world. The sound of a spine, of a legend, snapping in two. His body hanging like a broken doll. Conquest tosses him aside, into the rubble with the others. Earth's mightiest heroes, defeated in less than a minute. He raises his cybernetic fist, ready to finish the job, to crush the skull of the man who cannot die. But before the blow can land, a streak of red and white slams into him like a freight train. Nolan. He drives Conquest back, plowing a trench through the street. This isn't the calm, controlled Omni-Man the world once knew. This is pure, desperate fury. He knows he can't win. This isn't a battle for victory. This is a battle for time. A father buying seconds for his son. Every punch is a prayer. Every blow is a sacrifice. Conquest is actually surprised. He stumbles back, a trickle of blood leaking from the corner of his mouth. He tastes it. He looks at Nolan, a flicker of respect in his one good eye. "You still have the fire, traitor," Conquest growls. "Good." And then, the respect is gone. Replaced by cold, brutal efficiency. He blocks a punch, parries another, and then he counters. A piston-like jab to Nolan's ribs that sounds like a tree splintering. A devastating uppercut that sends Nolan airborne. He catches him by the throat on the way down, slamming him into the pavement with enough force to liquefy the asphalt. He holds him there, choking the life from him. But fire, Conquest rasps, leaning in close, is meant to be extinguished. He drives his fist into Nolan's face, again, and again, and again. The sound is wet, awful. Until finally, Nolan Grayson goes still, a broken man in a broken crater, having bought his son maybe 30 seconds of life. But that's when the second sonic boom hits, louder, sharper. Mark Grayson arrives. He doesn't land. He hovers, taking it all in. The ruined city block, the broken bodies of the Guardians. His father, unconscious and bleeding, held by the throat by a monster from the stars. For a second, there is only silence, the calm before the storm. Mark looks at Conquest, and Conquest looks back. "So," the old Viltrumite says, dropping Nolan's limp body. The whelp arrives. Mark doesn't answer, he just attacks. The first clash is apocalyptic. Two Viltrumites meeting in midair, with a shockwave that turns the entire street to dust. This isn't like the Invincible variants. This isn't like anything Mark has ever faced. Conquest is a wall of violence. His strength is absolute. His experience immeasurable. He catches Mark's punch and throws him through a skyscraper. He follows before the dust can even settle, driving his knee into Mark's chest, sending them both careening through another building, and then another. It's a slaughter. Mark is being overwhelmed, beaten, pulverized. Every punch from Conquest feels like a meteor strike. Every block shatters his guard. He's bleeding. He's struggling to breathe. The raw power of this legendary killer is simply too much. But this isn't the boy who fought his father in the sky. This isn't the kid who got his powers a few months ago. This is S1, a weapon forged for 11 years in the fires of the GDA. As Conquest winds up for another devastating blow, Mark doesn't try to block it. He doesn't try to match it. He remembers Cecil's voice, 1,000 training sessions echoing in his mind. Don't fight their strength, fight their body. A Viltrumite's power comes from leverage, their flight from equilibrium. Take that away, and they are just muscle. Mark ducks under the punch, and as the cybernetic fist whistles past his head, he drives the palm of his hand, hard, against the side of Conquest's head, directly over his inner ear. It's not a power blow, it's a tactical strike. For the first time, Conquest roars in pain. His flight wavers, his one good eye widens in shock as his sense of balance is violently disrupted. He stumbles in midair. And Mark presses the attack. He doesn't aim for the head or the chest anymore. He strikes the back of the knee, the solar plexus, the throat. GDA tactics, human tactics, designed not to overpower, but to disable, to cripple. He uses his speed not for brute force, but for precision. The one-sided beatdown is over. Now, it's a fight. A city-shattering battle between the old guard and the new blood. They tear through the sky, a whirlwind of white and blue, their impacts leveling what's left of the city. Conquest is furious. This boy, this half-breed, is not just surviving. He's thinking. He's adapting. He's using Viltrum's own biology against him. The fight rages, and the city dies around them. Chunks of concrete the size of cars rain from the sky. Entire floors of buildings shear off and plummet towards the streets below, when people are screaming, running, trying to escape the war of the gods above them. She isn't fighting, she's saving. A massive shield of shimmering pink energy holds back the side of a collapsing skyscraper, giving hundreds of people time to flee. She splits her focus, creating dozens of smaller barriers to deflect falling debris, her face a mask of pure concentration. But the destruction is too widespread. The collateral damage is escalating faster than she can contain it. Then, she sees it. A colossal slab of reinforced concrete, half a city block's worth, breaking away from a tower, directly above a daycare. Children are inside, frozen in fear. There's no time. She can't create a shield big enough. She can't protect everyone. So she makes a choice. Eve flies towards the falling mountain of debris. She brings her hands together, pouring every ounce of her being, every spark of her power, into a single, focused point. A shield no bigger than a dinner plate, but glowing with the intensity of a sun. All of her energy, all of her will, concentrated into one impossible defense. The concrete hits the shield, and for a moment, there is only white light. The multi-ton slab doesn't shatter. It vaporizes. It turns to harmless dust in an instant. But the cost is everything. The backlash hits Eve like a physical blow. The energy discharge shatters her concentration. All her other shields vanish. And in that one moment of vulnerability, a single, twisted piece of rebar, flung from the explosion, whips through the air like a spear. It punches straight through her side. She makes a small, shocked sound. The pink light in her eyes fades, and she falls from the sky, a broken angel crashing to the earth. Across the battlefield, locked in a brutal grapple with Conquest, Mark sees it. He sees her fall. He sees the pink energy fade. He sees her body, small and still, lying in the rubble, impaled, bleeding, and something inside him breaks. The GDA training, the discipline, the years of control Cecil hammered into him, it all evaporates in a single, horrifying instant. The tactical mind is gone. The calculated weapon is gone. A sound escapes his lips. It is not a word. It is not a cry of anger. It is a sound of pure, absolute loss. A guttural roar of pure, unrestrained Viltrumite rage. Conquest feels the change. The pressure of Mark's grip doubles, triples. He looks into the boy's eyes, and they are glowing. The hero Invincible is gone. And for the first time, Conquest looks afraid. Fear. It's an old, forgotten language to a Viltrumite. A ghost story they tell to conquered worlds. But right now, on Conquest's scarred and ancient face, you can see him remembering every single word. The towering, mustached engine of destruction, the being who has leveled civilizations with his bare hands, looks at the boy in front of him, and he is afraid. Because this isn't the boy he was fighting a minute ago. This isn't a desperate hero. This is a reckoning. Invincible doesn't shout. He doesn't scream. The rage is too pure for that now. It's a cold, silent fire burning behind his eyes. He moves, and the world blurs. The first punch doesn't just connect. It detonates. The shockwave vaporizes the asphalt for 100 yards. Conquest is launched backward, a living cannonball, tearing through the skeletons of 3 downtown skyscrapers before he can even process the impact. He hits the fourth building and plows through it, grinding to a halt in a storm of shattered glass and pulverized concrete. He pushes himself out of the rubble, his one good eye wide with disbelief. His jaw hangs crooked. He spits a tooth the size of a thumb. Before he can even straighten up, Invincible is there, not flying. He's just there. Another punch, to the gut. This one isn't about force, it's about violation. Conquest's nigh invulnerable body folds. The air is punched from his lungs in a gasp that sounds like a dying star. For the first time in 1,000 years, Conquest can't breathe. He tries to swing his cybernetic arm, the bronze prosthetic that has crushed the skulls of kings. Invincible catches it, not with 2 hands, with 1. The metal groans, shrieks, and then crumples like a tin can. Amethyst lights flicker and die. Wires snap. The legendary weapon is turned to scrap, hanging uselessly at Conquest's side. This isn't a fight anymore. This is a dissection. Invincible's movements are no longer just pure Viltrumite power. They are precise, calculated. Every strike is a GDA lesson hammered into him since he was 6 years old. He sees the openings Cecil taught him to see. He exploits the weaknesses Donald drilled into him. He's not just hitting hard, he's hitting smart. A jab to the throat, a knee to the floating ribs. He targets Conquest's blinded right side, a constant brutal assault on the warrior's blind spot. Conquest swings wildly, a god reduced to a barroom brawler. His punches are devastating, but they hit nothing but air. Invincible is a phantom, weaving, ducking, countering. Each counter is a chisel, chipping away at the monument of Conquest. The city around them ceases to exist. It's just rubble now, dust, an arena for 2 titans. Conquest lands a desperate sweeping blow that catches Invincible across the chest, sending him skidding through the cratered street. The Viltrumite veteran roars, seeing his chance. He lunges and runs right into the trap. Invincible doesn't try to block. He doesn't try to dodge. He straightens his fingers into a spear and punches straight through his lower abdomen. It goes in one side and comes out the other. A geyser of purple blood erupts into the sky. The warrior stares down at the arm impaling him, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. He has been wounded before. He has been beaten. But he has never been undone. Invincible stands before him, his own suit torn, his body a canvas of bruises and blood. He looks at the impaled Viltrumite, and his expression is utterly empty. The battle should be over. But for a Viltrumite, for Conquest, this is just an inconvenience. With a guttural scream of fury, Conquest pushes Mark away. He uses his Viltrumite strength to keep his guts from falling out. He discards his broken prosthetic arm, tearing it from its socket with his good hand. He is a wounded animal now. "You little filth," he snarls, blood dripping from his moustache. "I have crushed stronger worlds than you for fun. I will wear your spine as a necklace." He charges. He's slower now, but every step cracks the ground. He throws a punch that carries all the weight of his millennia of rage and pride. A blow that should atomize Mark Grayson. A blow that should end this pathetic resistance once and for all. He puts everything he has left into it, and Invincible takes it. He doesn't block it. He doesn't dodge it. He meets it head on. The impact is apocalyptic. A deafening sonic boom shatters every remaining window for miles. The ground beneath them splits open into a chasm. Both of them are thrown back, their bodies smoking. Conquest is the first to recover. He sees Invincible on one knee, head bowed, blood pouring from his mouth. He sees victory. He begins to laugh, a horrible, wet, gurgling sound. "It's over, boy," he gloats, stalking forward. "You had your moment. You fought well, but in the end, you are nothing." He raises his hand for the final, killing blow, and Invincible looks up. His eyes are burning. He's not hurt. He's not beaten. He was waiting. In a single fluid motion, he explodes upward. He doesn't throw a punch. He doesn't throw a kick. He slams his forehead directly into Conquest's face. The sound is not a crack. It's a wet, sickening crunch, like a watermelon dropped from a skyscraper. Conquest's skull gives way. The pride of Viltrum, the conqueror of 10,000 worlds, stumbles backward, his one good eye rolling back in his head. He's stunned, broken, his mind is static. Invincible doesn't give him a second to recover. He grabs the back of Conquest's head with both hands, holding him in place. He looks into the warrior's dying eye. And for the first time since this began, Mark Grayson speaks. His voice is a low, gravelly whisper. For Earth. He pulls his fist back. Every ounce of power, every moment of pain, every bit of training from Cecil, every nightmare of his dead mother. He pours all of it into this one final strike. His fist drives forward. It goes straight through Conquest's chest. There is a moment of absolute, perfect silence. Conquest looks down. He sees the arm buried to the elbow in his torso, wrapped around his heart. He looks back up at Invincible, and then he simply closes his eyes. Invincible stands alone, in the center of a ruined city, his arm outstretched. He has done the impossible. He has killed Conquest. Far above, in the cold, silent vacuum of space, the bridge of the Viltrumite warship is dead quiet. General Craig stands before the main view screen, his single cybernetic eye glowing a deep, ominous red. His officers stand frozen at their stations, too terrified to even breathe. On a holographic display next to the general, a single vital sign monitor has just flatlined. Conquest. Vitals. Terminated. Craig doesn't move. He doesn't speak. He just stares. He stares at the planet below. A planet that was supposed to be broken. A planet that was supposed to beg for mercy. A planet that just killed his single greatest warrior. One of his lieutenants finally works up the courage to speak. General, your orders. Shall we begin the cleansing? The silence stretches for an eternity. The fate of billions hangs in this single moment. Craig's hand clenches into a fist. The metal of his gauntlet creaks under the pressure. He could give the order. He could burn this world to a cinder. It would be easy. It would be expected. But Conquest is dead. Killed by a child, a half-breed. This isn't an act of defiance. This is a statement. And General Craig has heard it loud and clear. He finally turns, his face an unreadable mask of stone. His voice is low, but it carries the weight of an empire. Withdraw, he commands. The officers stare, stunned. Withdraw, Craig repeats, his voice harder now. Pull back to the rally point, and someone get me a secure channel to the Regent. He turns back to the view screen, watching the blue and white jewel of Earth. Report this outcome. Report that the boy is stronger than we knew. Down on the surface, the silence is finally broken by the whine of GDA jets and the thumping of rescue helicopters. The adrenaline is gone. The rage has burned out. And all that's left is the pain. Invincible sways on his feet. He looks over at the crater where Atom Eve lies, a broken doll in a pink suit. He takes one step toward her, then another, and then his legs give out. He collapses onto the shattered ground, the world going dark at the edges. GDA medics swarm the scene, a flurry of white and black against the grey devastation. They move with quiet, desperate urgency. We've got him. He's alive. What about the girl? Faint pulse. We need an evac, now. Cecil Stedman steps out of a transport, his face grim. The scar on his jaw seems deeper today. He looks at the body of his son, his weapon, his child, being carefully loaded onto a stretcher. He looks at the catastrophic, almost unbelievable cost of this victory. He won. They all won. But it feels like a funeral. The first thing Mark is aware of is the steady rhythmic beeping of a heart monitor. The second is the sterile smell of antiseptic. He opens his eyes. He's in a GDA medbay. White walls, clean sheets. IV drips snake into his arms, pumping him full of nanites and painkillers. He turns his head. Cecil is sitting in a chair by the bed. He's not in his usual suit. He's in a medical gown, one arm in a sling from the attack on the GDA headquarters. He looks older, more tired than Mark has ever seen him. But he's watching Mark with an expression that isn't a director looking at his asset. It's a father looking at his son. "Hey kid," Cecil says, his voice raspy. Mark tries to speak, but his throat is raw. He just manages a croak. "You did it," Cecil continues, a faint, weary smile touching his lips. Conquest is gone, the Viltrumites they left, the entire fleet just vanished. He leans forward, his expression turning serious. You won, Mark. Now we have to prepare for the rest of them. Mark follows his gaze out the reinforced window of the medbay. He looks up at the sky. It's blue, clear, and for the first time in what feels like a lifetime, it's empty. But they both know. What if one moment of rage didn't just break a family, but broke the world? What if a hero wasn't born from inspiration, but forged in trauma? We all know the story of Mark Grayson, the son of Omni-Man, struggling to live up to a legacy. But in this reality, that legacy is not a cape, it's a coffin. A 6-year-old boy, walking into a room splattered with crimson. His mother, Debbie, lifeless on the floor, and his father, Nolan, standing over her, hands drenched in blood, his face a mask of horror and regret. In that instant, something inside the boy snaps. Not his mind, his DNA. The grief, the shock, the sheer world-ending terror, it ignites his Viltrumite blood. Power explodes from his small frame, raw and uncontrolled. Nolan looks at his son, this tiny, superpowered orphan he just created, and he does the only thing a coward can. He runs. He flees into the blackness of space, abandoning his crime, abandoning his son, abandoning Earth. But someone else was watching. Someone who sees people not as sons, but as assets. Cecil Stedman, director of the Global Defense Agency, takes the boy in. He doesn't give him therapy. He gives him training. He doesn't give him a childhood. He gives him a mission. For 11 years, he raises Mark Grayson, forges him, hardens him, turns a grieving boy into the planet's ultimate weapon. And now, 6 months after the brutal war with conquest, a fragile peace hangs over the Earth. But peace is just the breath you take before the screaming starts. The sound is like a mountain falling over. Crack. Invincible hits the floor of the GDA's Deep Earth training facility. Not a floor, it's a crater now. He pushes himself up, spitting a glob of blood, the yellow and blue of his suit smeared with dust. Every muscle screams. Every bone feels like it's been ground to powder. Standing over him is not a machine, not a simulation. It's a ghost. Nolan Grayson, his father, returned to Earth not as a hero, but as a prisoner, a consultant, a tool Cecil uses to sharpen his prized weapon. Nolan's thick moustache is the same, but his eyes, they're hollowed out. All the fire is gone, replaced by a cold, hard duty. Again, Nolan's voice booms, echoing off the reinforced walls. You're pulling your punches. You're thinking about the impact. A Viltrumite doesn't think. He acts. He ends the fight before it has a chance to begin. Invincible gets to his feet, his stance solid, professional. 11 years of GDA training have made him a perfect soldier. I won, he says, his voice tight. The simulation is terminated. You won slowly, Nolan counters, taking a step forward. The sheer pressure of his presence makes the air thick. You won with bruises. Against conquest, you barely survived. Against Thrag, against the Empire, slow and bruised is just another word for dead. He points a finger at his son's chest. You have my power, but you still have her heart. It's a liability. She was soft, human, and look where it got her. The words hit Invincible harder than any punch. He clenches his fists, the ground beneath his feet cracking from the pressure. He never calls him Mark. Not anymore. He is Invincible. And Nolan is just Nolan, the man who killed his mother and left him behind. Don't talk about her, Invincible growls. I have to, Nolan presses, his voice dropping, becoming more intense. Because her memory is what's holding you back. You need to fight like you have nothing to lose. Because you don't. Cecil took care of that. He made you a soldier. Now let me make you a survivor. Let me make you a Viltrumite. Hit me. And this time, don't stop. Invincible looks at his father. Not the hero from the posters. Not the man who taught him to throw a baseball. He sees the monster from his nightmares. And for the first time in the training session, he smiles. A cold, sharp, GDA-approved smile. He launches himself forward. A blur of yellow and blue. A sonic boom that shatters the observation glass a mile above them. This isn't training. This is an exorcism. Miles away, in the sterile, silent heart of the Pentagon, the fight is just as brutal, but infinitely quieter. Cecil Stedman stands before a wall of monitors, his scarred face illuminated by the flickering screens.
One screen shows the live feed from the training facility, a silent, seismic ballet of violence.
You enjoy watching this, Cecil.
The voice belongs to the immortal. The ancient hero, leader of the world's independent supers, stands with his arms crossed.
He wasn't killed by Omni-Man in this timeline. He was just betrayed. He watched the world's greatest hero murder his wife in a fit of rage, and he has never, ever forgotten it. He looks at the screen showing Nolan with undisguised hatred.
It's not about enjoyment, Cecil replies,
his voice a low, gravelly rasp.
He takes a drag from a cigarette, the cherry glowing in the dim light.
It's about necessity. The boy is strong, stronger than I ever dreamed, but Nolan knows things we don't. He knows how they think, how they fight. He's turning Mark into the bullet we need to fire at the heart of the Viltrum Empire.
He's turning him into a monster, the immortal snaps back.
A copy of himself, and you're letting him. That thing should be in a black hole, not playing sparring partner with the most powerful being on the planet.
He is a resource, Cecil says, his tone leaving no room for argument. And he is under my direct control, just like the boy.
The immortal scoffs. You think you control Mark? You raised him, yes, but he's Nolan's son. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, Cecil, and that is a poisonous tree. When the time comes, Earth's defense needs to be under a unified command. Mine. The heroes of this world trust me. They don't trust your secrets, and they sure as hell don't trust him.
He gestures at Nolan's image on the screen.
Cecil turns away from the monitors to face him fully. The air crackles with tension. Two of the most powerful men on Earth, locked in a cold war for the soul of its protector.
The GDA has the infrastructure, the technology, and we have Invincible.
Your trust is irrelevant. Your cooperation, however, is not. When they come, and they are coming, we all stand together, or we all fall apart. Before the immortal can answer, a siren blares. Not a drill, a high-pitched, piercing shriek that signals a top-level threat. A red light flashes across the room, painting their faces in shades of blood. An analyst's voice cuts through the alarm, panicked.
Director Stedman, unidentified object just entered the system.
High velocity, trajectory for Earth orbit. Cecil is already at the main console. Hostile? I don't know, sir. It's decelerating. Scans show one life form, just one. But the energy readings, they're off the charts. They're Viltrumite. On the main screen, a single dot of light streaks across the blackness of space. It moves with impossible speed, then stops. Dead stop, hanging in high orbit, a silent sentinel over the blue marble of Earth. Telescopes zoom in. The image resolves. A figure, tall, muscular, with a thick white mustache and a gaze that could freeze stars. He wears the pristine white and grey uniform of the Viltrumite elite. It's not Nolan. It's not Conquest. It's someone older, someone stronger, someone legendary. And then he speaks, not to the GDA, not to the White House, to everyone. His voice hijacks every broadcast on the planet, every television, every radio, every cell phone. A deep, regal, terrifyingly calm voice that booms from the heavens. People of Earth. The voice is ancient, filled with the gravity of 1,000 conquered worlds. I am Grand Regent Thrag. Silence. On the streets, cars screech to a halt. In homes, families stare at their screens in horror. In the GDA training facility, Invincible and Nolan stop their fight, frozen, listening to the voice of their king. Your world has become a problem, Thrag's voice continues, each word a hammer blow. You have harbored a traitor. You have allowed an abomination of mixed blood to exist. This is an insult to the purity of the Viltrum Empire, an insult that requires correction. But I am not without mercy. Total annihilation is inefficient. So I offer you a choice, a tradition as old as the stars. Single combat. The world holds its breath. Send me your greatest champion, your strongest warrior. Let him face me, here, for the fate of your planet. If he wins, Earth will be spared. I will leave and never return. If I win, Thrag lets the implication hang in the air. A promise of absolute destruction. You have 1 hour to deliver your answer. Send your champion to me, or I will descend and unmake your world myself. The choice is yours. The broadcast cuts out. The screens return to normal, but nothing is normal anymore. Nothing will ever be normal again. High above the planet, a lone figure waits, a silent king, arms crossed, bathed in the light of the sun. He is a judge, an executioner, a god of destruction, waiting patiently. Down below, in the heart of the Pentagon, Cecil Stedman looks at the screen, his face pale. He looks at the immortal, whose rage has been replaced by cold dread, and through his comms he speaks to the boy he raised to be a weapon. Mark, get back to base, now. But Mark Grayson isn't listening. He's just staring up at the ceiling, as if he can see right through the miles of rock and steel to the Viltrumite hanging in the sky, the man who just challenged him to a fight for everything. And for the first time, Invincible, the GDA's perfect soldier, feels something he hasn't felt in a very, very long time. Fear. It's a cold, sharp thing. For 11 years, it's been a foreign language to Mark Grayson, a ghost story told about other people. But now, staring at a ceiling that might as well be the black of space, he feels it coiling in his gut, a poison he has no immunity to, while the GDA's greatest weapon lies paralyzed by a single human emotion. The world he protects is screaming. The Pentagon's deepest, most secure bunker is a pressure cooker. Voices echo off reinforced concrete walls, a frantic symphony of desperation. At the head of the table sits Cecil Stedman, face like carved granite, the scar on his jaw a pale slash in the harsh fluorescent light. He's listening, judging, calculating. Opposite him, a man built like a monument, with jet black hair and eyes that have seen empires rise and fall. The immortal, leader of the independent heroes, the guardians of the globe. And right now, his fury is a physical force in the room. It's a trap, Cecil. You know it, I know it. You send that boy up there alone, you're sending him to his grave. Cecil's voice is dangerously calm. And your alternative, Immortal? We launch every hero we have? A full-scale assault on a Viltrumite we know nothing about? That isn't a strategy, it's a massacre. It's better than sacrificing the only real weapon we have. The Immortal slams a fist on the table. The metal groans in protest. He's a child you molded into a soldier. Don't you feel even a flicker of responsibility? Before Cecil can answer, a new voice cuts through the tension. Calm, alien. Perhaps there is a third option. Every head turns. Standing by the holographic display is a being they've only known for a few short months. An orange-skinned giant with a single massive eye. Alan the alien, emissary for the coalition of planets. Alan gestures to the star chart. Thrag wants a champion. He wants a symbol. If we deny him that, if we force him into a prolonged engagement against a united front, we bleed him. The coalition can commit ships. We can draw his attention, give you time to prepare, to evacuate.
The Immortal scoffs. Evacuate the planet. We make our stand here. And die here. Alan's single eye narrows. My people were nearly wiped out by the Viltrumites. We learned a lesson you have yet to grasp. Pride is a luxury you cannot afford when facing extinction.
The room erupts again. Factions form, voices rise. Ambush versus duel, sacrifice versus retreat. And all the while, Cecil Stedman says nothing. He just watches, his mind running 1,000 cold calculations. The fate of the world being debated. And the boy who has to bear it isn't even in the room. He's in another bunker, deeper, darker, the GDA's training room Omega, a name for a place where they break gods. The air is thick with the smell of ozone and scorched metal. Mark Grayson floats in the center of the cavernous space, his suit torn. His breathing ragged. Across from him stands the reason for all of this. The ghost at the feast. His father, Nolan. Nolan's face is unreadable. The thick Viltrumite mustache, the piercing blue eyes, they show no pride, no anger, just a terrifying, absolute focus. He is not a father right now. He is a teacher, and the lesson is pain. Again, Nolan's voice is a low rumble. Invincible launches himself forward, a blur of yellow, black, and blue. He's faster than Cannon Mark ever was. Stronger. 11 years of GDA training, of pushing his Viltrumite blood to its absolute limit, has made him a prodigy of violence. He throws a punch that could shatter a mountain. Nolan catches it. Effortlessly. He doesn't just block it. He seizes Mark's fist, twists it, and uses his son's own momentum to slam him into the floor. The ground cracks. A shockwave ripples through the chamber. "You're fighting like a human," Nolan says, his voice dripping with disappointment. "You're fighting to win. That is not how a Viltrumite fights. That is not how Thrag will fight." Mark pushes himself up, spitting blood. "What's the difference?" Nolan steps closer, his shadow swallowing his son. "A human fights for a cause, for an idea, for victory. A Viltrumite fights for one thing, and one thing only: dominance. Thrag will not be trying to kill you, Mark. Not at first. He will be trying to prove to you, to your world, and to himself, that you are nothing. He will break your bones, but he will target your spirit. He will make you watch as he tears apart everything you love, just to see the hope die in your eyes. He fights not to conquer, but to own. This isn't a training session. This is an exorcism. Nolan is trying to burn the humanity out of his son, because he knows it's the only thing that might save his life. He is trying to teach Mark the brutal, ugly philosophy that led him to kill his own wife. The irony is a blade twisting in his gut. He will use your strength against you," Nolan continues, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "He will let you exhaust yourself against his guard. He will let you believe you have a chance. And then, when you are tired, when you are broken, when you have given everything, that is where his fight will truly begin." Nolan looks at his son, at the blood and the fire and the confusion in his eyes. For the first time, a flicker of something else crosses his face. Atonement. Guilt. "I abandoned you," Nolan says, the words tasting like ash. "I cannot undo that, but I will not let you go up there to die. Not for them, not for me. You will learn this lesson. Again." And he attacks, not with malice, but with a brutal, desperate love, the only kind he has left to give. The noise of the city is a distant hum. Here, in a small, unassuming tailor shop in the heart of downtown, the world feels quiet. Art Rosenbaum, a man with kind eyes and hands that have stitched the costumes of legends, works silently at his table. He's repairing the tears in the Invincible suit. Each stitch is a prayer. The bell above the door jingles. Mark sits on a stool, shirtless, letting Art work. He doesn't look up. He knows who it is. He can feel her presence like a change in the air. Samantha Eve Wilkins, Atom Eve. Her pink suit is gone, replaced by jeans and a simple jacket. Her red hair frames a face filled with a concern that cuts deeper than anyone else's. She doesn't say anything at first. She just pulls up the stool and sits beside him. The silence between them isn't empty. It's full of everything they can't say in front of Cecil, or the Guardians, or the world. "Art," she says softly, "could you give us a minute?" The old tailor nods, placing his needle down. "Of course, dear." He shuffles to the back room, leaving them alone with the quiet hum of the sewing machine. Eve looks at the bruises mottling Mark's chest, new ones, layered over old scars. "Training with your dad?" Mark nods, not meeting her gaze. He's thorough. Her voice is gentle, but it makes him look up. Her green eyes are searching his. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." The answer is automatic, programmed, the GDA soldier speaking. "No," Eve insists, shaking her head. "You don't. Alan has a plan. The coalition will help. There are other ways." Mark finally lets out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. The soldier facade cracks, and for the first time, the 6-year-old boy in the blood-soaked room looks out from the 17-year-old's eyes. "He's going to kill me, Eve." The words are barely a whisper. Nolan knows it. Cecil knows it. They're just hoping for a miracle. My father is teaching me how to die well. Cecil is calculating acceptable losses. That's all this is. He finally admits it. The fear. Not to his commander, not to his father. To her. Only to her. Eve reaches out, not with a glowing pink force field, but with her hand. She places it over his. Her touch is warm, grounding. "Then don't go," she says. "Stay. We'll figure it out, together. Let the world call you a coward. Who cares? I won't. And in that moment, Mark understands something profound. Cecil raised him to be a symbol. Nolan is training him to be a Viltrumite. But Eve is the only one who still sees Mark Grayson. He looks at their hands, then back to her face. He sees the fear in her eyes, mirroring his own. And he sees something else. Something unspoken that's been growing between them for years. A quiet hope in the middle of an apocalypse. He squeezes her hand. "Thank you," he says. And the words mean more than she can possibly know. He stands up, his decision made. The fear is still there, a cold stone in his stomach. But it's not paralyzing him anymore. It's focusing him. He walks back into the war room without a sound. The argument is still raging, louder now. The Immortal and Cecil are nose to nose, their rivalry finally boiling over into open hostility. "You're a monster, Stedman. You'll sacrifice anyone for your precious greater good." "And you're a fool," Cecil shoots back, his face livid. "You'd doom us all with your sentimental, short-sighted heroics." "Enough." The voice cuts through the chaos like a razor. It's not loud. It's not angry. It is absolute. Every single person in the room freezes, turning to face the doorway. Invincible stands there. His suit is repaired, pristine. His posture is perfect. The GDA's perfect soldier. But his eyes are different. The fear is gone, replaced by a terrifying calm, a chilling resolve. He walks to the center of the room, his gaze sweeping over the assembled heroes, aliens, and strategists. "You've all had your say," he begins, his voice echoing in the sudden silence. "You've debated my life like it's a chess piece. You've weighed the odds. You've planned for my death." He looks directly at Cecil, then at the Immortal. "But you've forgotten one thing. This isn't your decision to make. It was never your decision." He turns his head, looking up as if he can see right through the miles of concrete and earth above them. Right at the Viltrumite warlord hanging in the sky like a malevolent star. He called out Earth's champion. He challenged me. A slow, grim smile touches Mark's lips. It doesn't reach his eyes. "I'm answering." Without another word, he turns and walks out. No one tries to stop him. The sheer force of his will leaves them breathless. A moment later, a tremor runs through the entire facility. A sonic boom that rattles the foundations. He's gone. Up through the clouds, breaking the bonds of gravity. He leaves the arguments behind. He leaves the politics behind. He leaves the fear, the hope, the love. All of it shrinking on the blue marble below him. He is invincible, Earth's champion, Earth's weapon, Earth's sacrifice. And as he rises into the cold, silent dark of space, he flies toward his destiny, alone. The duel for the fate of everything is about to begin. There is no sound here, only the cold, indifferent silence of the void. Below him, the moon is a graveyard of grey dust and ancient craters. Above, a silent witness. Earth, a swirl of impossible blue and white, hanging in the black like a prayer. This is what he fights for. Not a memory of a mother, not the ghost of a father. He fights for the man who raised him. He fights for the agency that armed him. He fights for the world that is his only home. He touches down, a soft whisper of boots on dust. And he is not alone. Standing before him is a monument, a being carved from fury and time. Grand Regent Thrag. His skin is fair, his build impossibly powerful. A thick Viltrumite mustache, framing a permanent sneer. Long white hair flows behind him, a king's mane in the non-existent wind. He doesn't move. He doesn't need to. His very presence bends the desolate landscape around him. Thrag's eyes, cold and blue, lock onto the approaching figure in yellow and black. He looks at the eye on his chest, a symbol of defiance, a symbol of a bloodline he deems contaminated. So, Thrag's voice isn't spoken, it simply arrives, a low vibration that needs no air to travel. The half-breed whelp of the traitor Nolan, they send a child to do a Viltrumite's work. Invincible stops 20 yards away. His posture is perfect. A GDA textbook stance. Center of gravity low, fists ready. He doesn't waste breath on insults. He doesn't engage in banter. Cecil taught him better. A weapon does not speak, it acts. Are we going to talk? Invincible's voice is filtered through his comms, sharp and sterile. Or are we going to fight? Thrag almost smiles. Almost. You are eager to die. I'm eager to finish my mission. And right there, that's the difference. For Thrag, this is about pride, about empire, about purity. For the boy who calls himself Invincible, this is just a job, the most important job of his life. The Grand Regent takes a single slow step forward, and the moon itself seems to hold its breath. Then let us begin your final lesson. The first move isn't a punch, it's an explosion. Thrag vanishes, not fast. He's just gone from one spot, and now he's here. In front of Invincible, a fist is already descending, a comet of white knuckles aimed at his face. But the boy is ready. Years of training against simulations, against androids, against Cecil's brutal metrics kick in. He doesn't try to block. You don't block an avalanche. He pivots. He drops. He lets the blow sail over his head, the sheer force of its passage tearing at his suit. He uses Thrag's own momentum, grabbing the extended arm, planting his feet, and heaving. He's not trying to throw the Viltrumite king. He's trying to unbalance him. A tactic from a human martial art, scaled up to a god-tier level. For a split second, it works. Thrag stumbles, a single surprise step, and Invincible unleashes hell. A flurry of blows, each one targeted. The floating ribs, the side of the knee, the temple. He's not trying to cause damage. He's trying to create openings. He's fighting like a human, just as Nolan hated. But he's hitting with the force of a Viltrumite. A jab connects, then another. He drives a knee into Thrag's midsection. He follows with an uppercut that cracks like a thunderclap in the silence. He's faster, more precise. He's a surgeon with fists like sledgehammers. Thrag is thrown back, skidding across the lunar dust, carving a trench 100 meters long. Invincible doesn't wait. He doesn't gloat. He presses the attack. He's a blur of blue and yellow, a relentless storm of calculated violence. He learned from the best strategists the GDA had. He knows that against a stronger opponent, you never ever give them a moment to breathe. You overwhelm them. You break their rhythm. You shatter their composure. He drives Thrag into the wall of a crater. The impact sends a shockwave across the surface, spiderwebbing the rock for miles. Dust plumes into the blackness. Invincible is on him, a piston of fists, each blow landing with devastating precision. The ground beneath them fractures, it groans, it breaks. This isn't a fight. This is a demolition. For a full minute, it looks like the impossible is happening. It looks like Earth's weapon, this boy forged in a government lab from the ashes of a broken home, is actually going to win. He's smarter. He's more tactical. He is everything Cecil Stedman built him to be. But here's the thing about a Viltrumite, especially a Viltrumite like Thrag. You can't break their rhythm, because their rhythm is pain. You can't shatter their composure, because their composure is rage. Through the storm of punches, a hand flashes out. It catches Invincible by the throat, and just like that, it's over. The flurry stops, the strategy ends, the tactical advantage evaporates. There is only Thrag's grip, tightening like a vice. He lifts the boy off the ground, a single hand holding Earth's champion like a child's doll. Invincible struggles, his fists beating uselessly against Thrag's arm. It's like punching a mountain. Thrag's eyes are burning with a cold fire. He wasn't fighting. He was observing, analyzing, and he is deeply, deeply unimpressed. You have your father's strength, the voice rumbles in his head, but you have his human pet's weakness. You think, you scheme. A Viltrumite does not need to think. He pulls his other arm back. He needs only to conquer. The punch connects with Invincible's stomach, and the world breaks. It's not just a blow, it's a geological event. The sound barrier, non-existent in the vacuum, is shattered by the sheer kinetic force. Invincible is launched, not thrown, launched. He flies backwards, tumbling end over end for miles across the lunar surface. He hits the ground, skips like a stone on water, and finally crashes into a mountain range, obliterating the peaks in a silent, slow-motion cascade of rock and dust. He lies there, in a newly formed canyon of his own making, every single system in his GDA-enhanced suit screaming red alerts. Ribs are broken, internal bleeding, the HUD in his goggles flickers and dies. He pushes himself up. Pain is a fire in his chest, in his limbs, in his very soul. He can feel the nanites in his suit trying to administer medical aid, trying to patch the tears, but it's not enough. It's never going to be enough. He sees a shape descending from the sky. Thrag floats down, not a scratch on him, his white uniform pristine. He lands softly, his expression one of pure, unadulterated disappointment. "I have fought for millennia," Thrag says, his voice laced with contempt. "I have crushed civilizations between my fingers. I have watched suns die. And you are nothing more than a breath." Irritating noise. Mark Grayson gets to his feet. His body screams. His training screams. Everything screams at him to stay down. But he doesn't. He stands. Because that's what Cecil taught him. A weapon doesn't quit until it's broken. He spits a glob of blood onto the grey dust. He raises his fists. "I'm not done," he chokes out. Thrag looks at him, and for the first time, he actually smiles. It is a terrible, predatory thing. "Oh yes, you are." The second round is not a duel. It's an execution. Thrag doesn't hold back. He doesn't analyze. He simply attacks. Every blow is a killing blow. A right hook shatters the left side of Invincible's mask, sending shards of high-tech polymer spinning into the void. An elbow to the back snaps his spine with an audible crack that echoes inside his own skull. He grabs Invincible by the leg and smashes him into the ground, again and again. The lunar surface becomes a canvas, and Invincible is the paint. Craters are pounded into existence with his body. He's thrown through rock formations, dragged through dust, and hammered with a brutality that is almost artistic in its totality. His suit is shredded. The advanced GDA tech, Earth's greatest hope, is torn away in ribbons of black and yellow, revealing the bruised and broken body beneath. His tactics are gone. His training is a distant memory. There is only survival, instinct, the desperate animal need to not die. He tries to fight back. He lands a punch on Thrag's jaw, a solid hit, the kind of hit that would level a skyscraper. Thrag doesn't even flinch. He just turns his head back slowly, his eyes narrowing. He grabs Mark's arm, and he twists. The scream is silent, but it rips through Mark's entire being as his arm is broken in 3 places. Thrag hits him again, a punch to the face that sends him spinning, unconscious before he even hits the ground. He wakes up staring at the stars, or one star, a bright burning blue one in Thrag's eye. The Grand Regent is kneeling over him, one knee planted firmly on his chest, pinning him to the cold, unforgiving ground. The boy's face is a mask of blood and swelling. His one good eye struggles to focus. He can see the earth over Thrag's shoulder. So beautiful, so far away. He failed. After all the training, all the pain, all the years of being forged into a living weapon, he failed. "It is a pity," Thrag says, his voice now calm, almost gentle. It's the voice of a butcher over a lamb. "Your father had such potential, before he was tainted by this world, by weakness, by love." He raises a hand, palm open, over Invincible's face. "I will not make the same mistake with you. I will not let your tainted bloodline continue. This ends now. Your legacy, your world, your life." The hand descends, slow, deliberate, a final crushing judgment from a merciless god. Mark Grayson closes his eye. There is no more fight left in him. There is only the end. The shadow of Thrag's hand falls over his face, blotting out the stars, blotting out the earth, blotting out everything. The shadow falls. The universe shrinks to a single point of impact. Invincible is broken, beaten, awaiting the final crushing blow that will erase him from existence. The hand of Thrag, an instrument of judgment, descends through the vacuum of space, heavy with the weight of an empire. This is the end,
And then, a sound that does not belong. A sonic crack that shatters the silence of the void. A streak of white and red, impossibly fast, a comet of pure, unadulterated rage. It doesn't slow, it doesn't hesitate. It impacts Thrag with the force of a planetary collision. Boom! The Grand Regent is thrown sideways, ripped away from his final killing blow. He tumbles across the lunar dust, a king unseated from his throne. And standing over the battered form of Invincible, his cape billowing in a solar wind that isn't there, is Nolan. His face isn't the calm, collected mask of Omni-Man. It's the face of a father who just watched his son die. Twisted, ferocious, unforgiving. He broke the rules. He shattered the sacred right of single combat for his son. In that moment, there is no empire. There is no duty. There is only Mark. Before Thrag can even reorient himself, the sky above the moon rips open, not one ship, but dozens. GDA stealth frigates, shedding their cloaking fields like ghosts becoming solid. Hatches blow open, and the cavalry arrives. Leading the charge is the Immortal, his eyes blazing with a righteous fury that has burned the millennia. He is a living spear, aimed at the heart of the Viltrumite threat. Beside him, a blur of azure and gold, is War Woman. Her mace sings a song of destruction as she dives from the ship, a Valkyrie descending upon her fated enemy. Black Samson lands with the weight of a titan, electricity arcing from his fists, his jaw set in a grim line of determination. From another transport, a swarm, dozens of sleek orange-colored drones, moving with a single unified purpose. Robot has entered the field, and with him, a roar that echoes in the soul. A young woman, Amanda, leaps from the ramp, and in midair, she grows. Skin turns green, muscle expands, and the being that hits the lunar surface is not a girl, it's Monster Girl, a jade giantess ready to unleash hell. And they are not alone. A single, larger form descends. Orange skin, one massive eye. Alan the alien slams into the surface, his fists like twin meteors, a grin of pure battle lust on his face. The plan was never to let Mark fight alone. The duel was a lie. It was a lure. And now the trap is sprung. The Immortal is the first to reach Thrag. Your reign ends today, he bellows, his voice a thunderclap of defiance. He throws a punch that could shatter mountains. War Woman is right behind him, her mace crashing down. Alan attacks from the flank, a three-fingered fist aimed at Thrag's temple. Black Samson unleashes a torrent of lightning. Monster Girl grabs a massive lunar boulder and hurls it like a pebble. Robot's drones open fire, a coordinated storm of plasma and laser fire that turns the moon's surface into a churning sea of light and fire. This isn't a fight. This is an execution. A combined, overwhelming assault designed to obliterate the Viltrumite threat before he can even draw a breath. Far away, on Earth, a woman watches this unfold while a secure GDA feed. She stands in a high-rise office, the city lights twinkling below like a fallen galaxy. She is tall, with tan skin and short black hair. Her blue eyes are fixed on the screen, analytical, cold. She wears an immaculate orange business suit, a stark contrast to the brutal violence she is witnessing. This is Anissa, a Viltrumite, and what she sees makes her lip curl in disgust. This is not how they fight. This is chaos. This is human. The sacred duel, the ultimate test of strength and will, has been desecrated, violated by a traitor and his pet world's pathetic heroes. A part of her, the part forged in millennia of Viltrumite tradition, screams for Thrag to tear them all apart for this dishonor, for this weakness. But another part of her, the pragmatic strategist, simply watches. She sees the coordination, the sheer numbers, the fusion of raw power and advanced technology. She sees Nolan, the legendary Omni-Man, fighting not for Viltrum, but for his half-breed son. She sees the might of Earth and the coalition of planets united. And for the first time she considers a future where Viltrum does not win. The thought is poison. It is heresy, but it is there, and it will not leave. Back on the moon, the assault is devastating. The heroes press their advantage, a relentless wave of power. They are the guardians of the globe,
They are the champions of the coalition. They are Earth's fury made manifest. They drive Thrag back, cratering the ground with every blow, every blast. For a moment, just a moment, it looks like it's working. It looks like they can win. And that's when Thrag stops retreating. He plants his feet in the grey dust. He takes a punch from the immortal to the jaw. He takes a blast of lightning from Black Samson to the chest. He takes a laser barrage from Robot's drones across his back. He doesn't even flinch. He just absorbs it. And then he looks up. The surprise is gone. The arrogance is gone. All that remains is an abyss of pure, murderous rage. He lets out a sound. It is not a word. It is not a scream. It is the sound of a star dying. A roar of absolute power and betrayal that shakes the very foundations of the moon. A wave of kinetic energy explodes from his body. It's not a punch. It's not a blast. It is a statement. The Immortal, War Woman, Black Samson, Alan, Monster Girl, all of them are sent flying. Not pushed back, hurled. They tumble through the vacuum, their coordinated attacks shattered into individual pieces of helplessness. Robot's drones are swatted from the sky like flies, crumpled into balls of useless scrap metal. Nolan braces himself, grabbing Invincible to shield him from the blast. He holds his ground, the only one still standing against the tide. Thrag rises to his full height, his Viltrumite uniform torn, his body smoking. But his eyes burn with a cold fire that promises nothing but pain. He looks at Nolan. He looks at the scattered forms of Earth's greatest heroes. He looks at the world hanging in the sky, a beautiful blue marble, utterly oblivious to the god of death who now turns his gaze upon it. His voice is calm, frighteningly calm. It cuts through the comms, a blade of ice for every hero to hear. "You could have had an honorable death," he says, "a warrior's end for your champion. But you chose this. You chose tricks, deceit. You have proven that you are nothing more than insects." He turns his gaze to Nolan, the traitor. You threw away everything, our legacy, our laws, for him." Thrag takes a slow step forward, then another. The hunt is over. The war begins now. "Honor is dead," Thrag declares, and the words echo with the finality of a tombstone. "I will not conquer your world. I will not subjugate it. I will dismantle it. I will break your heroes. I will burn your cities. And I will make you all watch as I tear your little planet apart, piece by pathetic piece." There is no sound on the moon, no air to carry the scream, but everyone hears it, a psychic shockwave of pure, undiluted rage. Thrag doesn't move. He doesn't have to. The first one to reach him is War Woman, her enchanted mace glowing with ancient power, swinging in an arc that could crack a continent. Thrag doesn't even look. He raises one hand, catches the mace. The shockwave from the impact is visible, a ripple in the lunar dust. For a heartbeat, there's silence. A tableau of impossible strength. War Woman, a goddess of battle, her arms shaking, straining against an immovable object. And then, a crack. Not the ground, not the mace, her bones. Thrag twists his wrist, a simple, almost lazy motion. War Woman's arms shatter from fist to shoulder. He doesn't throw her. He discards her, sending her tumbling end over end into the blackness of space. One down. Alan the alien is next. He's a blur of orange, a Unipan piledriver engineered to fight Viltrumites. He's faster than War Woman, stronger. He lands 3 punches on Thrag's chest before the Grand Regent even registers him as a threat. They sound like meteor strikes. Thump, thump, thump. Thrag looks down at the fists embedded in his uniform. He looks up at Alan, and for the first time a flicker of something that isn't rage crosses his face. Amusement. "You are stronger than the others," Thrag says, his voice a low growl that seems to vibrate through the very rock beneath their feet. "You will be more satisfying to break." He grabs Alan by the face, his fingers wrapping around the Unipan's single massive eye. Alan struggles, his immense strength useless. A sickening pop echoes in the comms of every hero watching. He goes limp. 2 down. Now I need you to picture this. The remaining Guardians are frozen. Black Samson, Monster Girl, robots, drones. They were an ambush, a plan, a strategy.
And in less than 10 seconds, Thrag has turned it into an execution. But there is one who does not freeze. One who has lived for millennia. Who has died and returned. Who has ruled empires and been brought low. The Immortal. He charges a screaming spear of righteous fury, his eyes burning with the memory of every hero who has ever fallen. He is not fighting for a plan. He is fighting for history itself. He hits Thrag like a train.
And for the first time, Thrag moves. He's driven back a single step. The ground cracks under his heel. The Immortal unleashes a storm of fists, 1,000 years of combat experience focused into a single, desperate barrage. He's a whirlwind of blue and white, every punch a sonic boom in the vacuum. Thrag takes it. He just takes it. He lets the Immortal exhaust himself, weathering a storm that would level a mountain range. Then when the final punch is thrown, when the Immortal is gasping for breath he doesn't have, Thrag grabs him by the throat. He lifts the Immortal high, one-handed, and he drives his other fist straight through the hero's chest. No explosion, no grand exit, just a clean, perfect, devastating hole where a heart used to be. The Immortal's eyes go wide, then dim. His body is tossed aside, a broken relic. The ambush is over. The Guardians are broken. This isn't a fight. This is a statement. And through it all, one man watches. Nolan Grayson. He stands over the unconscious form of his son, his fists clenched so tight, his knuckles are white. He just watched the greatest heroes of his adopted world get dismantled like toys. But he knows this wasn't for them. This was for him. Thrag turns, his shadow falling over Nolan. His eyes, burning with cold fire, lock onto the man who was once his most trusted soldier. Now, Thrag says, his voice dripping with venom, we have our duel, traitor. The fight begins, not with a charge, but with a blur. Thrag moves, and the world disappears for Nolan. The first hit lands before he can even think to block. A right hook to the jaw that sends him skipping across the lunar surface like a stone on water. He hits a crater wall hard enough to shatter it. He gets up, spits out a tooth. Thrag is already there. He grabs Nolan by the cape, yanks him into the air, and slams him back down. Again, and again, and again. Each impact is a seismic event, kicking up clouds of grey dust. This isn't a battle of equals. This is punishment. This is a king making an example of a deserter. You threw away everything, Thrag roars, his fist connecting with Nolan's stomach, the blow doubling him over. Our people, our legacy, for what? For these insects? For a weakling son you couldn't even raise to be loyal? Nolan doesn't answer. He can't. He's too busy trying to survive. He throws a punch, a desperate, wild swing. Thrag catches it, crushes his hand in his grip, and headbutts him. The sound of Nolan's skull cracking is sickeningly clear over the GDA comms. Nolan stumbles back, his vision swimming. He is outmatched, he is outclassed, he is losing. And he knows it. Thrag is everything a Viltrumite is supposed to be. Ruthless, unyielding, unstoppable. Nolan learned pity. He learned love. And on the barren surface of the moon, those things are nothing but weaknesses to be exploited. I will take my time with you, Nolan, Thrag whispers, grabbing him by the hair and forcing him to his knees. I will break every bone. I will tear you apart, piece by piece. And when I am done, I will wake your son, so he can watch me finish you. He raises a fist for the final blow. A blow to cave in Nolan's skull, to end the rebellion, to end the betrayal. And that's when he hears it. A whisper. Get away from him. Thrag turns, and standing there, swaying on his feet, his suit in tatters, his body a canvas of bruises and blood,
is invincible. Mark is awake. He shouldn't be. No one could recover from the beating he took. But he saw it. Through a haze of pain, he saw his father, the man who abandoned him, the man he barely knows, being murdered for saving his life. And something inside him snaps. Adrenaline, rage, a son's primal need to protect his father. It floods his system, a chemical fire that burns away the pain. He doesn't have a plan, he doesn't have the strength, but he has to do something. Invincible launches himself forward, a wounded animal, a desperate, hopeless charge. He slams into Thrag's side, all of his remaining power focused into one tackle. It barely moves the Grand Regent, but it does something more important. It gets his attention. Thrag swats him away, sending him crashing to the ground. But as he turns back to Nolan, Nolan is there. He drives an elbow into Thrag's temple. It's not enough to hurt him, but it's enough to create an opening. And in that moment, something clicks. A flicker of understanding passes between father and son. A lifetime of lost time, of resentment and questions, melts away in the face of a common, unbeatable enemy. They don't speak. They don't need to. They know what they have to do. Invincible gets up. Nolan gets up. They stand side by side, the traitor and his half-breed son, and they attack, together. It's a symphony of violence, a perfectly coordinated dance of destruction. Invincible goes low, a battering ram aimed at Thrag's legs, forcing him to focus down. The second Thrag's eyes drop. Nolan comes from above, a sledgehammer from the sky. Thrag blocks Nolan, but the force of the blow drives him a step back. Invincible is there, driving a fist into his kidney. Thrag roars, backhanding Mark across the face, but the move leaves his chest open, and Nolan is there, landing a brutal combination that echoes like cannon fire. Faster, stronger. They are losing. Let's be clear. They are still losing. Every hit they land, Thrag returns two that are twice as hard. He breaks Invincible's arm. He shatters Nolan's ribs. But they don't stop. They press the attack, a relentless, two-pronged assault. They are fighting on pure will. They are no longer trying to win. They are trying to make an opening. Thrag is getting frustrated. The fight should be over. He is the strongest. He is the king. But they just keep coming. He grabs Invincible by his broken arm and hurls him into a towering shard of lunar rock, a jagged monolith left over from some ancient impact. The rock groans and cracks. Thrag turns to finish Nolan, a snarl on his face. Your son dies first. But Nolan just smiles, a bloody, broken smile. That was the plan. Thrag doesn't understand. He turns back, and he sees it. Invincible isn't just lying in the rubble. He's bracing himself. With his one good arm, he has his feet planted against the base of that massive rock shard. It's hundreds of tons of stone and crystal. And with a guttural scream that is felt more than heard, he pushes. The shard rips free from the lunar surface. It rises into the air, a makeshift spear the size of a skyscraper, held aloft by the sheer desperate power of a boy fighting for his father's life. Now, you need to understand something. What happens next? It changes everything. Nolan sees the opening. He shoots toward Thrag, not to attack him, but to grab him, to hold him in place. He wraps his arms around the Grand Regent's chest, a final, sacrificial act. Now, Mark, he screams. Thrag realizes the trap a second too late. He struggles, driving his elbows back into Nolan's already broken ribs. But Nolan holds on. He holds on with all the strength, all the regret, all the love he has left. Invincible puts every ounce of his being into the throw. His muscles tear. His bones scream. The universe narrows to a single point, the heart of the monster, crushing his father. The lunar spear flies, a silent grey missile streaking across the battlefield. It moves with impossible speed. Thrag sees it coming. He makes a choice. He can't break free from Nolan's grip in time to dodge, so he does the only thing a Viltrumite knows how to do. He attacks. As the point of the rock is inches from his chest, he thrusts his own arm forward, a perfect, brutal killing strike. There is a moment of absolute stillness. The colossal shard of rock drives straight through Thrag's chest, bursting out his back in a spray of stone and Viltrumite blood. And at the exact same instant, Thrag's arm plunges through Nolan's chest, his fist gripping his father's heart. Father and son, traitor and king, impaled on each other's final, desperate blows, they hang there, locked in a fatal embrace as the dust settles around them, two titans fallen in the silent, empty dark. For a moment, there is nothing. No sound, no movement. Just two figures, suspended in the vacuum, skewered on each other's rage. Nolan Grayson, impaled on the fist of a king, and Grand Regent Thrag, a spear of lunar rock driven clean through his chest by the son of the man he just murdered. The dust of a shattered world settles around them in a silent, silver cloud. Victory and defeat, all at once. Then a sound, a wet, tearing noise that echoes in the absolute silence. It's the sound of Viltrumite will defying mortal wounds. Thrag's muscles tense, his entire body shuddering with an agony that would atomize a lesser being. His fingers, still wrapped around Nolan's heart, twitch, but he lets go. He pulls his arm back, ripping it free from Nolan's chest in a spray of crimson that freezes instantly into a constellation of tiny red jewels. He stumbles back. A deep guttural growl escapes his lips, a sound of pure, bottomless hate. He looks down at the massive, sharpened rock jutting from his own torso. His hands grip the stone. There is no hesitation, no cry of pain, only a grunt of pure effort as he yanks the spear from his own body. He holds it for a second, dripping with his own royal blood, then lets it fall to the grey dust. He looks at Nolan's collapsing form. He looks at the hero scattered and broken across the lunar surface. And then his eyes find the still unconscious body of Invincible. And you need to understand the look on his face. It is not triumph. It is not relief. It is a promise, a vow, written in blood and fury. It says, "This is not over. This is not even the beginning of the end. This is merely a pause." Without another sound, Thrag turns. He pushes off the ground, a wounded god ascending into the black. He doesn't look back. He just flies, a streak of vengeance disappearing into the infinite, leaving behind a graveyard of his own making. The king is gone, but the war has just been declared. As the last trace of Thrag vanishes, Nolan's body finally gives out. He hits the lunar dust with a soft, final thud. The impact, gentle as it is enough to stir the boy he died to protect. Mark's eyes flutter open. The GDA tech in his suit flickers, diagnostics screaming red alerts across his vision before shorting out. Pain is a roaring fire in every cell of his body. But he ignores it, because he sees him. He sees his father, lying broken in the dust. "Dad," the word is a cracked whisper, swallowed by the void. He pushes himself up, his limbs screaming in protest. He crawls. Every inch is a marathon. He finally reaches Nolan's side, his hands hovering, afraid to touch, afraid to confirm what he already knows. Nolan's eyes, barely open, find his. A faint, bloody smile touches his lips. "Mark," he breathes, the sound a faint rasp in their private comms link, the only thing still working. Mark gently lifts his father's head, cradling it in his lap. "I'm here," Mark says, his voice thick with a grief so profound it feels like it's choking him. "I'm here, Dad. Medics are coming. Cecil's people are coming. Just hang on." Nolan gives a weak shake of his head. No time, son." He coughs, a wet, rattling sound. "He's gone, for now. You did it. We did it." His gaze is locked on Mark's face, a look of awe, of wonder. "I came back here to help you, to earn forgiveness, for your mother, for leaving you." Tears are streaming down Mark's face now, freezing on his cheeks. "You did," he chokes out. "You did. You came back." "Good," Nolan whispers. His breathing is getting shallower. "That's good." He reaches a trembling hand up, his fingers brushing against the eye on Mark's chest. "When you were a boy, that day, I saw your power, and I saw a monster. I saw me. I was afraid." He takes a ragged breath. "But I was wrong. So wrong. I don't see a monster, Mark. I see a hero. The hero I I only pretended to be. You are better, stronger, not just your body, your heart. His eyes begin to glaze over. You are my son, my best son. Tell them you were. His hand falls. His eyes go vacant. The comlink cuts to static. And just like that, Nolan Grayson is gone. Mark doesn't scream. He doesn't roar. He just sits there, in the silent dark of the moon, holding the body of the father he had only just found again. He lowers his head, his shoulders shaking with a silent, all-consuming sorrow that feels heavier than the planet hanging in the sky above him. The hum arrives first, a low, persistent thrum that grows into the roar of engines. Dozens of GDA ships descend from the black, their landing lights cutting sharp, sterile beams across the devastated landscape. Hatches hiss open, and med teams in sterile white exosuits swarm the battlefield, their movements efficient, practiced, cold. They move among the fallen, Alan the alien, his one good eye staring blankly at the stars. War woman, her body a broken doll. The remaining guardians, battered into unconsciousness. The living are stabilized, loaded onto stretchers, and carried away. The dead are respectfully covered. A shimmering distortion appears near the center of the carnage, and Cecil Stedman steps through. No suit, no helmet, just his usual black tie and scarred face, looking impossibly out of place in this alien wasteland. He takes a long, slow look around, at the craters, at the bodies, at the sheer planetary scale of the damage. For the first time, perhaps ever, the man who has a contingency for everything looks lost. A heavy thud lands behind him. Cecil doesn't turn. He knows who it is. The Immortal stands there, his white and blue costume torn to shreds, his face a mask of grim exhaustion. He isn't dead. Viltrumite physiology is powerful, but the Immortal's ancient curse is a power all its own. He can be killed, he just doesn't stay that way. But every revival takes its toll, and this one feels different. For a long moment, the two men just stand there, the director of the GDA and the leader of the world's independent heroes, rivals, competitors in the game of saving the world. Their animosity, their deep-seated distrust for one another, has defined global policy for years. But not today. Today there are no politics. There is no rivalry. There is only the bill, and it has come due. The Immortal's gaze follows Cecil's, settling on the two figures in the distance, the dead Viltrumite and the son kneeling over him. Wordlessly they share a look of grim understanding, of shared catastrophic failure. They threw everything they had at one man, the best technology, the strongest heroes, a Viltrumite legend, and this is what's left. Their rivalry is a luxury they can no longer afford. The world they knew is gone, and in its place is a shared, terrifying responsibility for whatever comes next. The lunar surface, the craters, the bodies, everything is gone, teleported away by GDA technology to a massive, cavernous containment hangar deep beneath the Nevada desert. It's all evidence now, a crime scene the size of a city block, preserved under the cold, artificial glare of 1,000 floodlights. And in the middle of it all, Mark sits on a piece of moon rock. They brought him back with the wreckage. Medics tried to approach him, but a single dead-eyed look sent them scattering, so they left him alone. The world's greatest weapon, its sole defender, sitting amidst the bones of his victory. He hasn't moved in hours. He just stares at the spot where his father's body used to be, before it was taken away to some GDA laboratory. He hears footsteps on the metal grating. Soft, hesitant. He doesn't look up. The footsteps stop beside him. He feels a presence, a warmth that has nothing to do with the hangar's climate control. Eve sits down next to him on the cold, grey rock. She doesn't speak. There are no words for this. No, I'm so sorry. No, he was a hero. No, we'll get through this. She knows, with a wisdom far beyond her years, that words right now are just noise. They are meaningless anchors in an ocean of pain. So she says nothing. Instead, she raises a hand, and a soft, gentle pink light emanates from her palm. It's not a shield. It's not a weapon. It's just warmth. A small, self-contained sunrise that pushes back the sterile chill of the hangar. It wraps around them like a blanket, a silent testament of care. A quiet promise. You are not alone. Mark's gaze slowly lifts from the empty dust to her face. He sees the exhaustion there, the grief, the fear. He sees it all mirrored in her eyes. A single tear, the first he's allowed to fall since Nolan's last breath, cuts a clean path through the blood and grime on his cheek. The carefully constructed walls of the GDA super soldier, the years of training, the discipline drilled into him by Cecil, it all shatters into a million pieces. He's not invincible, not right now. He's just Mark Grayson, a boy who watched his father die. He leans his head against her shoulder, a movement of pure, crushing exhaustion. He doesn't sob. He doesn't break down. He just rests his weight on her, a silent admission that he can't carry it by himself anymore. Eve responds by wrapping an arm around his shoulders, pulling him closer. They sit there, two teenagers in the wreckage of a war, under an artificial sky, holding each other up. The sky is quiet again. For the first time in weeks, there are no explosions, no sonic booms, no screams ripping through the atmosphere. Earth has been saved. The invasion was stopped before it could truly begin. On paper, it's a victory. But as the sun rises on a world that has no idea how close it came to extinction, the silence doesn't feel like peace. It feels like a prelude, the deep, cold breath a universe takes right before the real storm begins.